Better safe than sorry. Give people one more minute. Start adding up your contacts from the weekend so you're prepared. All right, Carly, you want to get us started with your accountability?
Yeah, so I actually went on a vacation this weekend, and so I kind of thought that I was going to be more unproductive, but I went up to Seattle, Bellevue area, and I went to this bowling tournament for a nonprofit. And I actually got to have a lot of cool conversations with people, and I added a bunch of people into my contacts from there that I met. Even though it was like Washington, we still talked a lot about real estate and the market. And yeah, so I got to add a bunch of contacts from that, and that was cool.
Awesome, great job. And I did send you a message if you can check chat. Deanna.
Yeah, I did hand out about 10 business cards yesterday. I have my friend who is now, they will be looking for a house in a month. My sister's going to be listing her house. And then my in-laws sold a house in Hawaii, and they got their realtor to, be in contact with me, and we were talking, and he was giving me good advice, which is great, but he also is a contact because he has a lot of people that move from there to here. And so he was excited to have someone here on this side that he could give to his people. So
Awesome.
Yeah.
Great job. Julie.
Hi. So all I have to report is I have 2 new contacts. The rest of the weekend I spent with the family, just doing family stuff.
Good job. Good to get some family time.
Yeah.
Miriam.
Hi, so I added 4 new contacts. One of them was a mortgage broker that I met at the KW Halloween event that they did. So that was nice to get him into my contacts. I did my RMLS orientation and I finished my business cards.
Good progress. And I sent you a message too, if you can also check chat. Hannah.
Hi. So I was able to add 15 people to my contacts. 9 of them came in off of an ad for the open house I did on Sunday, and 6 of them were from the open, different contacts. One of my Facebook leads converted to an appointment, so we'll see if it's to be kept. And then Friday before the open house, I made like little invitations and I door knocked the neighborhood and handed them out. And one lady showed up because of that. So I was like, okay, at least somebody thought it was cute. And then I had lunch today with somebody from First American.
Awesome.
And that's it. I'm not seeing any homes that are like vacant, so I can't go preview. Everything is like occupied right now. So I don't know how to get in and preview anything. I look and look and look and I just don't see anything. So if you have any that you know of that I should go check out, let me know. And then I'm just gonna work the rest of the day on trying to figure out what listings are gonna come in this week that possibly I could get an open for, because I don't have anything scheduled this weekend and I need to. So that's where I'm
Awesome.
at.
Great job. Vanessa.
Hey, I got, I think 18 new contacts. I also went into my husband's work and met a bunch of people in there and handed out some business cards. And then this morning I'm working on contacting a couple of realtors for open house.
Awesome. Great job. Irina.
Hello. So I was only able to add about 2 new contacts over the weekend, but I did reach out to a large amount of people to get updated addresses, and then sending them my business cards now, writing out those notes. But that's about it for now.
Excellent. Great job. Jill.
Yeah, I talked to a friend over the weekend. His lease will be up in spring, so I will help him find a house to purchase in the airport area.
Awesome.
And I'm also slowly letting everyone I know to know that I'm in real estate now, so I'm still new.
Good. Good job. Courtney.
I was able to add 5 contacts from the open house that I held on Saturday that were actual leads, which was super exciting. But again, I'm working on that follow-up, and it's one of those things where I'm always surprised I don't hear back from certain groups of people. So I'm still looking for the just right like follow-up recipe, I suppose. So at this point, I haven't had a ton of time to add more to contacts, but I have been working with my coach on an addendum to a purchase and sale agreement for my client that is purchasing a home in Beaverton, and we're supposed to close on the 15th, but we might move it up to the 10th. So stay tuned for that. And I also have a listing appointment for Sunday, the 7th. And that's for a friend of mine. Her in-laws are getting ready to move, and my friend is as well. So that was another experience where I got to learn about referral agreements last week. That was something I was working on from the beach. And yeah, so if anyone, I didn't really know how those all worked out, but that paperwork has been sent. So hopefully I get to work with this other awesome agent in California a little bit too.
Awesome. Great job. Amy, did you get your audio working? Maybe not. Stella?
There we go. I got it. Sorry.
Oh, yay. Yay.
So I have been doing some research this weekend on doing an off-market offer for a friend that the property that she wants went off the market, but we know it's going to be going back on the market. And so she wants to make her offer before then. So I've been doing some research to get that ready. And then researching about my farming strategy that I want to start this year.
Great. Stella?
Hello, everybody. Hope everybody had great Halloween yesterday. So I've been busy. I've been meeting my friends, local friends, and I just had long conversations with them about their future needs for real estate and if they know anybody who might be looking for houses or will be moving soon. So I got some information. None of them are moving anytime soon, but at least I know what they want, what they will be looking for. I established a connection with local pet shelter, and I've been visiting local businesses like stores, and I've been exchanging my business cards with the owners.
Good, awesome. Janet, welcome. I won't put you on the spot for any accountability, but she is one of our newest members out of the Salem area. Just want to introduce her, and then Janet, what you're seeing is what we will do beginning of every class is counting how many contacts we've made. So we'll go over that more as well. All right, Jared.
Hey there, how have you been?
How are you?
Good, good. How was your Halloween festivities?
So fun.
Nice, nice. Well, this weekend has been quite a whirlwind here. I've got myself really busy trying to finally track down a home for myself and get an offer in, and so that's all finally happened for me here. And I just got off the phone a little bit ago with the listing agent at Remax, who's awesome, and I find myself in another really great, interesting position, which is that the home went off market, and then I was able to get my offer in at that time. Similar to the one, I don't know if you remember the Hayden Bridge property. Yeah. So basically same scenario, went off and I was able to get my offer in and make a bunch of other real estate agents angry. And but yeah, I think this is definitely the one, and we just got the word back that that the seller is glad that we've put an offer in, and so I think it's pretty much 99-100% good to go. So lots of work ahead, and I've got a buyer I'm working with right now from out of town that I met at an open house last weekend, and then I did an open house the weekend before that too. And I think I did one. Yeah, it's just been weekends of open houses going on, which has been great. I've been running my COVID protocol with my gloves and all my stuff. But so yeah, my finding a home for myself has definitely hindered my whole, but I'm still my whole database collecting and getting people archived, but I'm still gaining momentum here and getting a lot of vendors at the same time as well. So
good. Excellent. Okay, well, without further ado, we're going to introduce our amazing instructor, Jake Norman. Jake is a CEO and team leader for the Keller Sunset Corridor. He's passionate about connecting people to tools, resources, knowledge, opportunities, and other talented people to help them achieve their business and financial goals. He feels privileged to connect with agents and see how he can help support them as they grow. Him and his wife run a super successful team, so he'll be able to share lots of knowledge with you guys today. Make sure you unmute and ask questions as you have them, and definitely let me know if you need anything, but I'll let him take it away.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for the introduction, Mara. Today's session is going to be super interactive, so I'm going to encourage you to stay cameras on, stay engaged, and we're going to work through this, but there's going to be a lot of activity. So I hope you came ready to play all in on this, because if you're like me, 3 hours of Zoom, if you don't get engaged and we don't interact, that's going to get a little long. So I want you guys all in. Let's play together. We're going to talk about finding and winning with buyers. Just so I have a sense of the room, has anyone already closed some transactions? Has anyone already worked on the buyer side of the transaction yet, start to finish? Yes, no, I see one hand. I see a lot of no's. And you use chat as well. Okay, cool. So it kind of gives me an idea of who's got what experience. And again, like Mara said, please don't hesitate. Drop questions in the chat. I've got it up on one monitor so I can watch that, drop questions over. I'm always happy and willing to help any way that I can. You guys ready to rock and roll? All right, you guys are going to have to match my energy. I'm going to try to do all that I can to keep us moving forward here. So let's get rolling. I know we've already done some of this accountability, but every session leading up to Ignite, you guys should have been prepared with a mission assignment leading up to. Did all you get the mission, and have you done the homework? Honesty is appreciated. I see some no's. See a lot of no's. I see a no and a no in the chat, Jared. Any yeses? Any like I did some of it? All right, so that's going to make this part interesting, some of it, because we need to talk about some ahas from the homework. If we did no and no, then I'm going to guess probably not a lot of ahas. One thing I want to encourage you guys, I'll give you a little bit of my backstory before we dive in. So I was with another company. I've been in real estate 8 years now. I'm obviously in Oregon at the moment, and I have a team that still operates back in Colorado, selling homes day to day while running an office here. While that sounds exciting, my first year in real estate, I closed a whopping 0 transactions. How many of you think that's a great first year? Right, I closed 0. I worked for an independent brokerage. A friend of mine owned it. I came to Keller Williams year 2, and I closed 21 transactions my first year with Keller Williams. People would ask, what's the difference? I would say it's classes like this. I actually, because I'm a slow learner, took Ignite twice my first year. I went through it 2 different rounds because I felt like I needed the fundamentals. So I'd encourage you guys, play all in, lean in, ask questions. Don't be afraid. Don't be me. I literally sat in several Ignite sessions and team meetings wondering what a MET meant. And then after getting brave, I raised my hand and said, what does MET stand for? And they said, just someone you've met. And it was like, I thought it was special acrostic or some kind of special thing. And it was literally someone we met. So don't be afraid to ask questions, be honest, show up and play all in, because that's how you'll get the most from Ignite. So kudos to those of you. I heard several of you say like, hey, I added 15 to my database. I set an appointment. This thing is happening. You will get out what you put in. Just know that. So cool. We're going to talk a lot today about like researching statistics. Hopefully one of the challenging sections is going to be part of the homework was come prepared with some statistics that you prepared in advance. So that may be an interesting conversation when we get there. Obviously we're on technology, used to in a physical classroom, we would need your laptop. We're all clearly on some sort of device. So we're just going to keep rocking and rolling. You've already reported out your daily 10-4 with Mara. So we're going to keep moving forward there. So part of Ignite, you guys can let me know, and Mara watches the recording, so she'll let me know if you guys are being level 10 honest with me. Part of your mission is coming prepared with a call list. Anyone come prepared with a call list for Ignite? I see some no's, I see a yes. Have you guys in the first 6 sessions actually spent time on mute dialing for dollars?
No.
Deanna saying no. Everybody's saying no. This is all
always skip
surprising
this.
to me. This is like all my fun stuff, man. This is like the stuff I love. Awesome. So you guys in the first 6 have not done the dialing for dollars where you actually live. I mean, not live where we can hear you, but you go on mute and call. Okay. So let me ask this question in the room then. This allots 20 minutes for this. Do you all have, I won't make you go through a list since you didn't prep it. Let me ask you this though. Do you all have one person that you could call right now? And go on mute and call where we can't hear you. One person you could call, ask for business or ask for a referral or both.
Yeah.
See some yeses. So what would you guys think about just taking 5 minutes and make one phone call? Could you all commit to doing that right now?
Sure.
Hannah looks so excited.
I'm very excited. I don't know what's wrong with me. I couldn't sleep last night. I was up to like 3. So
So here's what I want to encourage you to do is just go on mute so we don't hear. I mean, if you want to stay unmuted, you can, but just go on mute real quick. Let's take 5 minutes and make one phone call to someone who actually could become a piece of business for you, buyer, seller, or referral. So let's do 5 minutes. I've got 1:20. So I will hit the material again in about 5 minutes. If you don't have someone to call, open your contacts list in your phone because you've all got someone you can call. So we'll give you 5 minutes to make a call, unmute, and let's share some results in 5 minutes. All right, if you haven't already, go ahead and wrap your calls up. Anybody have a win to share? Who got brave and made the call? I saw some phones.
I made
Did anyone
3.
die?
No,
Did anyone get attacked, assaulted?
No.
I got hung up on.
That's okay. That
Oh,
happens.
yeah, that happens.
So you said you made 3 calls, Hannah?
Yeah, first one didn't answer. Second one answered and hung up. Third one, no voicemail.
Okay, that works. Hey, you made the calls though. If you try enough no's end up with a yes. So love that. Thank you for being bold and making the calls. Who else made a call or some calls?
I made a call. This is someone that I wanted to reach out to. I talked to them in person yesterday, but our conversation, we kind of split ways in the middle. So I called her and finished our conversation from yesterday. And then something that's been working for me, instead of saying like, if you know anyone that wants to buy or sell, I just say, if you have any real estate questions or just want to know facts, people seem to kind of soften up instead of just, are you ready to buy? You want to sell? So that was good.
Cool. And did it sound promising? Where did the conversation kind of land? Follow up or what?
Not quite. I ended it, if you have questions or if you know anyone that has questions. And she said, yeah, I'm not looking at houses anytime soon. They're renting right now. But she said, you'll be my go-to person for the questions. So that,
cool.
Not where I wanted it to end.
That's okay. We'll talk about some strategies around that later.
Mhm.
So thanks for making the call though. Okay, one more share and then we're going to keep rocking and rolling here. So I want to get you guys out on time and respect your time. Jared, thank you, Jared. No answers, left 2 messages. Anyone else? One more?
Yes, I called my neighbor and asked her if she knows anybody who's looking to buy or sell. I know she's not on the market, but she has a big network.
Okay.
And she replied she doesn't know anybody who's looking to buy anytime soon, but I let her know to keep me in mind, and I will be happy to help.
Okay.
Whenever they'll come up.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for making the call. I still see some phones going, so that is good. Guys, I get it. I was completely terrified of being on the phone and making those calls when I first started, so I understand the hesitancy sometimes. And I will tell you, the number one way I've made business is this: picking up the phone and making phone calls. So don't be afraid. The thing that I came to always think of is when my phone rang, it was like a cash register going off. I needed to talk to that cash register. So thank you guys for making the call, playing all in there. Let's keep rocking and rolling. Get your head in the game. I want to go over the expectations today. Is 1, to talk about how we can find buyers. 2, talk about how we can qualify and schedule them for consultations. 3, learn how to educate them and set expectations. 4, learn and practice. I'm going to encourage you guys after this to pair up with someone either in scripts or in your market center or just a friend in the business and start practicing these scripts we're going to talk about in your consultations. Also, we're going to talk about how to ask for the agreement so you can get exclusive representation agreements, and then finally talk about next steps. So I don't know how the other experiences have been. I'm going to ask you to be very participatory, very much all in, play all in, ask questions. Join me in my madness, and we'll keep rocking through this, and hopefully we'll have some fun along the way. So let's keep going. Go over, I think, in your material to where it says get your head in the game. It talks about these 3 things. Somebody read point number 1 there. Get your head in the game. What's the first point up there? Told you I'm gonna ask for participation. Can you guys see the slides, by the way? Yes. What does point number 1 say?
Finding buyers is simple. It's not hard to find buyers to work with. They visit open houses, look for properties online or through your KW app. Buyers are everywhere at all times, essentially raising their hands and saying, work with me.
Finding buyers is simple. Now, if we're 100% level 10 honesty, how many of you feel like right now finding buyers is simple?
I think it's easier than finding a seller.
That feels valid in this market, right? The key here is the right mindset, right? Finding buyers is simple. We've got to be around the right mindset. Do all of us know someone, if we called enough people, contacted enough people, would we find someone that wants to buy a house right now? The answer is probably so. Even if it's not in this market, we might have a referral opportunity, right? If we reached out to enough people. So finding buyers is simple. The second says servicing buyers is inexpensive. And I can speak from experience on this. When I got a listing and when my team takes a listing, I incur marketing expenses. There's a lot of expenses where I'm spending money to service that seller, right? Whereas a buyer, what's the primary expense of servicing a buyer? Other than time. They're more time intensive, but they're less cash intensive. What's the primary expense we have when servicing buyers?
Maybe gas. You need to drive around and
there you go. There's the number 1 expense is you're in your car driving places. And with gas prices going up, right? That's our primary expense though. But it's not like you're paying for staging or photography or videos or any of that stuff for marketing. So buyers are inexpensive, and then earning with buyers is quick. Now, I know if you're just getting started, this may feel a little crazy, but in theory, if I said, if you can, by the end of the day, come up with one signed buyer representation agreement, one agreement with a buyer today signed, that's a willing, able, and ready buyer. If you can do that, I'll give you $1 million. Could you go find a buyer today? And could
do my
you,
damnedest.
what's that?
I do my damnedest.
Right. Like there is a possibility with a buyer. You could actually go find a buyer, do your initial consultation, go show them homes this evening, and write a contract and have something in escrow tomorrow. That is an actual possibility. So that's one reason we said, hey, let's get our head in the game. Let's go with buyers, because earning with buyers can be really quick and can get us some quick wins and get us some income coming in. And I'm guessing we all got into the business to earn income. So
Can I just say something really quick?
Yep, absolutely.
I just wanted to thank you for making us do those calls, because she had been on my list and I hadn't called her, and she called me back right after I said that she didn't answer, and I set an appointment, and she's looking to list and buy. So, and I was able to connect with her about being an East Coast woman. So that was really exciting. So I just want to say thank you for forcing that call, because it needed to happen.
Love it. So you set an appointment that is going to lead to potentially two sides, I heard, a sell and a buy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I told you, this is a cash register. It has money. We just have to go find the money. We just have to get the money out of the drawer. Right. So congratulations, Hannah. That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that win. So let's talk about converting buyer leads. So the first step is obviously what? We've got to find the buyer. We got to go get them. We do that through making calls. We do that through our prospecting, our lead generation, our marketing, all that, those activities. But then we've got to be able to convert them. Because if we can't convert the lead to an appointment, which becomes a commission, well, there's a breakdown there, right? So we got to be able to convert them. So we're going to talk about finding the buyers, how we can find them, how we qualify them, and then how we can sign them. Because those are really the three big steps there. I want to share something with you guys. I'm gonna go back to this actually. Oh, where's that stat? It's coming up in a minute. So there in your material, there's a statistic that says NAR 2014 profile. So this is a little out of date, and it's still actually pretty accurate when you look at the new numbers. Do you guys see where it talks about the NAR profile of home buyers and sellers stat? So how many, according to this, what percentage of buyers purchased working with a real estate agent? If you see that there in your manual, what's the number?
88%.
88%. I think it's still, even with all the disruption, it's still somewhere in the 70 to 80% range, depending on the study you see. So that tells me that 7 or 8 out of 10 buyers will work with a real estate agent when they buy a home. So that's pretty good odds they're going to work with someone. Now, if you look at that, is there any statistic there that kind of shocks you guys?
The 12% of buyers used an agent that they had used in the past. I would hope for myself, at least, that number would be a lot higher.
So do we realize as a new agent, there's a major opportunity that tells you 88% of agents will not follow up appropriately with their database, and their clients, their past clients, will choose to use a different agent the next time. So that means if you're the agent that's making those calls, that's doing that follow-up, you'll get the win. So we're going to talk to them about this, how to find them, how to qualify them, how to sign them. If our technology cooperates, I'm going to click on this link here and we're going to watch a video. So let's give it a whirl and see if it works. I even pre-queued it, so hopefully it will work. Can you guys see this video over here on the screen? All right, now, second step is, do we have audio? Let's find out.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Pollack,
Here.
and I'd like to share tips on how to find the motivated. What do I mean by find the motivated? Turning a warm lead into a closed client. The first tip is, when you find someone, you want to ask for the business. Let's say you're at a party and your friend is pregnant. You can always say, hey, it looks like you need a bigger house. Or you're out and about and you see this big, beautiful diamond ring and not the full wedding ring. You can say, hey, it looks like you just got engaged. Congratulations. When are you buying your next house? And then I always ask, when are you ready to buy? When are you looking to move into your new house? What are those underlying tips of motivation that will tip you off to having a client that's ready to do business now versus a year from now? Tip number 2, ask for the appointment. Have a calendar or your smartphone ready to say, I have availability tomorrow at 2 or the next day at 4. Which one would work for you? Book the appointment when you meet someone who's ready to do business. Tip number 3, so now you've got the appointment, you want to pre-qualify that appointment by using scripts. Ask questions such as, have you met with the lender that I referred you to the other day? To make sure that they have their price range in mind when they're meeting with you to buy a home, and that you know they're able to sell a home, or that they're motivated by a desire to have another outcome, like maybe they're relocating or they're downsizing their home. There has to be some motivation level to continue forward with the appointment. Tip number 4, use embedded commands. When you get in front of the people face to face at your appointment, you want to be talking embedded command language, such as, when you're comfortable and confident that I can sell your home, then we'll sign the contract tonight. If you're using that language throughout your hour or half an hour appointment, they'll be more comfortable when they get to the end, and they'll sign that contract, and then you can move forward. The last step is you've signed them up, and now it's your goal to get a referral. When you're in conversation with them on the phone, in the car, at the closing, use questions. Who else do you know that's looking to buy a home, sell a house, or invest in real estate that I can call today? If you keep saying this throughout the process, you'll find yourself turning more of your current clients into referral business that will generate lots of easy sales for you. So go out there and find the motivated, and have a great day.
Helps when you unmute. What ahas do you guys have from the video? Anything jump out to you there?
Yeah, I feel like I'm more of a less pushy person, because I don't like when I feel like someone's pushing me. So I know that I need to focus on my scripts more, so that I know how to be, like she said, more in like that commanding way, like a call to action, like a specific push, and kind of just like already giving them the idea that they are going to do that, because I naturally am not going to push someone to do something. I know that I can offer them the best service, because that's just who I am, but I'm less likely to tell them that, I guess. I don't know.
Okay. Thanks for sharing.
My
One more.
aha was to follow up with some out-of-town buyers that are supposed to be getting pre-approved here locally. So I got an email out to them really quick.
Gotcha. Love that. So I want to talk about, she talked about a lot about finding the motivated buyers, right? We're going to talk about that second point there, qualified buyers, but let's look at that first. So how do we find motivated buyers specifically? So I want to do a little quick out loud brainstorm. Again, just come off mute, share, pop it in the chat, however you want to do it. When you are sharing on chat, if you want the whole group to see it, make sure that you adjust that to everyone. If you want the whole crowd to see it. So here's the question. So if today is Monday, if I said, okay, group, here's the deal. By Friday, end of day Friday, 5 o'clock Friday, before I leave the office, if you can show me that you have went out and got a representation agreement signed, exclusive rep agreement signed with a buyer that is willing, able, and ready to buy a house, you'll get $1 million. I'll give you $1 million cash. Here's the brainstorm. How would you go find that buyer? Where would you look? What would you do? You guys, let's share some ideas here. How would you go start finding buyers before Friday if you knew $1 million was on the line?
I'd be calling the whole world.
Call the whole world.
Door knocking.
Everyone I've ever met.
Yep, call everybody. Door knocking. What are some other ideas?
Call their sphere.
Sphere of influence. What are some other ideas?
I'd probably start having some more conversations with like the other parents at my kids' schools.
Yep, exactly. Reach out to network. Love it. That's one of the ways my wife, when she got into the business I was in first, she built her network through all the connections our kids were in. Love that. Crazy networking and any events was shared in the chat channel. Love that. There are no wrong answers, by the way. Lead generation is basically talking to human beings, making new relationships or solidifying ones you already have. So for you high I's, don't like see lead generation as I get to make new friends. For you high D's, it's I'm making connections to help me be successful. Right? Like the white pages, love it. What about like, could you reach out to other successful agents in the office and ask if you could host an open house for them? Right? Buyers show up at open houses. What are some other ideas? White pages, events, kids groups in school, calling people, contacting your sphere of influence. Any other ideas?
I like to do an ad whenever I do an open, because then you get leads off that too. These are people that you have no connection with, but might be browsing. So that's how that got that appointment, off of an open house lead from Facebook.
Yep.
Actually, 2 off of the same ad.
Yep. Right. And talk to those agents. So really, I'm glad you pointed out the open house thing. So for my team in Colorado, we're learning new rhythms of working. I just moved to Oregon in May. My team is still operating back in Colorado. Obviously, when we were there, we were the ones running the open houses. Now we live in Oregon. That's a challenge. But for the last 3 years, open houses has been one of our top 3 business sources. So here's what I would encourage you on open houses specifically is there's kind of 4 stages that are mentioned in your material. And I would say they're very much true. Is one is you need to actually prepare for the thing. Like the thought of like, I scheduled an open house Saturday, 10 minutes before I dropped 2 signs off for directionals and I went and set an open house. Like that will not work. You will leave that open house going, this was the worst Saturday ever, or the worst Thursday afternoon ever. You'll see it as a waste of time. So definitely there's some preparation. Like Hannah was mentioned, run an ad, talk to if you're going to do someone else's listing, hold it open, make sure they're good with it, and make sure you're in compliance and everything. But find ways to leverage it. Go ahead, Janet. I see a hand up. Oop, I saw a hand up. Where'd you go? Wait, there she is. She's down there now. Do you have a question, Janet? I saw your hand up.
Oh, no. I was thinking about strategies to find potential clients.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I used to work for a nonprofit. So I used to help people with core paperwork. So I went to the family law division and I just let people know that I'm a real estate, and in case they are getting divorced, I can help you with that. Probably it's not the best moment, but it's something that at one point many of those couples will end in buying or selling a new house.
Yep. Well, and there's a kind of softer script than the, hey, who do you know that's looking to buy a home, sell a home, or invest in real estate? There's a little softer script there in your material where it says always ask. I just want to see if you have any real estate plans coming up that I can help you with. That's a little bit softer than that, hey, who do you know looking to buy a home, sell a home, or invest in real estate? And then it says to ask for a referral. So there's a lot of ways on that open house. Another piece, Hannah mentioned the ad. You've got to market an open house to make it work. Like you have to market it. Like we would put out a minimum of 10 directionals. We would run a Facebook ad around it. We would go knock on some doors near it. We would even do some postcards. There was all sorts of stuff we put into it. But that's why open houses work for us, as we work with them. It's kind of like this class, like you always get out what you put in. So if you put 2 minutes into preparing for your open house, you can expect about 2 minutes worth of results. And if you put 2 hours or 10 hours, you'll see that return go up. So it talks about in there preparation, marketing, connecting with visitors. That's one of the big things. By the way, talk to your productivity coaches and your market centers. The Command has a sign-in form for open houses. One of our teams actually just used it and said it worked great. They had it pulled up on a tablet and a laptop. People sign in and it dropped the contacts right into Command for them. So that is actually something my team had never used. I knew it existed. We had not experimented with it since it came out, but Matt Spate, who some of you guys may know, Matt told me he used it and it worked fantastic. So I would definitely encourage you check in on that. The big thing, what is going to be the biggest downfall in any of these lead generation tactics? And then we're going to move on. What's going to be the biggest place we lose our money? The fortune is in what?
Not following up.
The fortune is in the follow-up. So if you come to me here, and this is just, I'm trying, if you're going to use open houses specifically, but really you could apply this to any lead generation source, an event, a networking, or whatever. If you come to me and go, hey, Jake, I had an amazing open house. It was so awesome. I'm going to go, awesome, great. What made it awesome? I had 45 people through it. Awesome. How many name, phone numbers, and emails did you actually capture and put in your database? And if the answer is 0, I'm going to say, I am so glad you had a busy open house and it really wasn't that effective for you. On the flip side, if you tell me, oh my goodness, I had the worst open house ever. I sat there for 3 hours on a Saturday and only 2 people came through. I was bored to tears. I was dying. And I'm like, awesome. How many people did you put, how many names, phone numbers, and emails did you put in the database? And you're like, only 2. I'm going to go, congratulations, great job. Right? It's all about perspective, because what I know is if you put those 2 people in the system and follow up long enough, I promise you one of them will buy or sell a house. That's just true, right? It's our follow-up that's the problem. So as you go out lead generating, make sure you're using command, you're setting up smart plans, that you are doing the follow-up. Remember that stat, we'll probably hit it again, that only 12% of buyers use the same agent. Why did they not use the same agent? Really bad follow-up. They closed the deal and forgot about them. So focus on the follow-up. Let's keep rocking and rolling here. We're going to keep going. Go to, I think my pages are tracking with you guys. Do you guys on page 14 have a bullet point list of like 5 questions on your page 14? I see some head nods. Let's look at those. How do we respond to those? So I'm going to read the question, and then I want someone to come off mute and answer them. Here's the first question. So here's when you're going to do a buyer consultation or meet with a buyer, here's some questions that we're going to suggest you be ready and prepared to answer. So I'm the buyer and I'm going to ask a question and I want someone to come off mute and answer. Here's the first one. What's available in my price range? Someone come off mute and answer that question.
What's your price range?
What's your price range? Might be a great conversation, right? How else could we answer that?
I would try setting up a buyer consultation with them first.
Love that. Tell me how you might do that. What would be the script?
I would say that there are a bunch of different options. It depends on what they're looking for in a home, to start with. It would also help figure out what their price range actually is. How many bedrooms, how many baths, and it's just, I would let them know. Oh, sorry, I'm in script. I would say that come into my office, we can sit down, have a little conversation about it, and you can tell me what you're looking for, and we can kind of go over all this stuff together and really get to know each other so we can start building our relationship as well.
Yep.
Something like that, just a little more smooth.
Yep. Well, and that's great. Hey, that's exactly why we should meet. I would love to get together and talk about what your price range might be. Now, here's another way you could do it. Hey, are you already speaking with a lender about that? Oh, awesome. You are. Oh, you're not. Hey, I'd love to connect you as one of my preferred lending partners. And then, hey, are you available to meet this Friday at 3, or would Thursday at 4 work better? And in the meantime, you could connect with such and such, who's my preferred lending partner. And then, right, we send the connection, we follow up. Hey, were you able to talk with? Fantastic. Look forward to seeing you Thursday at 4. So awesome. Love that. Let's go to question number 2. I don't think I can afford to buy a house. Boy, have we heard that in this kind of market, right? How do we respond to that?
You would be surprised, or I have a lender that you can come get in contact with, and she can show you what options there are out there.
Okay. Love that. Connect them to a lender. What's another option?
I would say there's a lot of options available for first-time home buyers, or different programs that you might not know about. And if you speak with a lender, they might be able to give you some more information about that.
Love it.
I would say why, and tell me more about that.
Yeah, that's where I was. I mean, I would just say, hey, Amy, I appreciate you sharing that. What makes you think you can't afford a house right now? And oh, by the way, are you currently renting or do you own your house? I mean, I'm gonna assume it's gonna be rent, right?
Mhm.
And then if they say rent, oh, awesome. Well, how much are you paying monthly for rent? Like there's a lot of ways to back into that. So all that'll work. And you guys alluded to a lot of great options too. Like, hey, if you find out they're first time home buyers, like, oh, fantastic. My preferred lender has some great options for first time home buyers. And I mean, another thing is kind of exploring, you could even do like a isolate the objection. Hey, Julie, other than you don't think you can afford a house, is there any other reason you wouldn't buy a home now if you could? Oh, that's all? Awesome. Let's meet and I'll have my lender come to the meeting of consultation with us to see if they can pre-qualify you right away. By the way, if you've got some lenders I've worked with in the past, literally would come to my buyer consultation with me. I would hand the buyer off for the first 15 minutes, let them do their quick thing, at least on a quick pre-qual. And if it sounded pretty solid, I would finish up the consultation. So a lot of ways to do that. Love that. Let's go to number 3. I'm thinking about waiting until next year. Who wants to tackle that one?
I mean, I would say why? You're never going to pay less than you will right now. So there's no, why would you wait? Can you afford to wait, really?
Tell me more about that. I'm going to pay more later than I will now. Why, Hannah? I don't understand.
Because interest rates are very low right now. They're, I wouldn't say abnormally low, but they're very low and they will go up. And so as much as the prices are higher right now than you think maybe they should be, they're still right where they should be with the 12-year trend. So prices might stabilize, but interest rates will go up. So you're not going to pay less than what you would right now.
Yep. Love that. So you could point to all indicators pointing to interest rates going up. And I mean, really, it's like a probability thing. You could say, hey, Miriam, I appreciate that you're going to wait until next year. And let me ask you, what have the home prices done the last several years? Have they gone up or have they gone down? Well, everybody's going to say, well, they went way up. It's ridiculous. Awesome. What's the chance you think the market does a complete reversal and the bottom falls out next year? All experts are projecting a appreciation again next year. And by the way, are you owning or renting right now? Well, I'm renting. Awesome. And you said you're paying $2,500 a month rent. So here's the reality is if you wait till next year, you've lost over $30,000 either way. You'll never get back. So go ahead, Vanessa. I see a hand up there.
Yeah, so I have talked to 2 people recently in the past week or 2, and they said the same thing. I'm not sure what it means or where they're coming from with it, but they're waiting for things to calm down because they think everything's crazy with COVID. And I've gone through pretty much what Hannah said, saying yeah, interest rates are crazy low right now. This is what you're looking at. And they still say that things are too crazy right now. How do you respond to that?
Yeah, what do you guys think? Hey, things are too crazy right now. I don't want to right now. It's just too crazy. How would you guys respond?
I mean, what they're referring to is during the summer when people were paying way over list, right? So that's not happening right now.
I think they're referring to the COVID and just they think that the market is just super crazy right now, that they want to wait for everything to calm down.
Yeah, I think a simple script that I love and something like that is, hey, Vanessa, tell me more about that. What do you mean when you say everything feels crazy right now? Can you help me understand what you mean by that? And just see what they say, just hey, tell me more about that. And just let them talk. I mean, it may be COVID, it may be their life is crazy, right? It could be that, and by the way, you'll learn consumers operate off of old information. Right? So it's November 1st today. When a consumer says, hey, it's just crazy, here's what they're really saying probably is, yeah, my friend who bought a house in August, it was so crazy. Oh, hey, my family member that closed on a house 2 months ago, I mean, they had 10 offers. they typically operate with like a 90 to 120 day lag has been my experience. And what we know, if you're a professional in the market, is actually, especially in some neighborhoods, some specific areas, depending on the market you're in right now, because I mean, this is across our whole network. What we know is there's actually some places where, like, I know a lot of our agents are like, hey, instead of 5 offers, I'm competing against 2. Or, hey, I got in and with no competing offers at all right now. So what we know is the market of the moment is very different from the market they've heard about 3 months ago or 2 months ago. So that's where I would just go, tell me more. So tell me more, see what they're saying, and then they'll likely go to one of these common objections. Here's another fun one, especially if you feel like you're newer. Can you help me find an investment property? Who will take that?
I would say yes. What is an investment property to you? What's your price range? How much are you looking to make from that purchase? What's your down payment? Lots of questions for that.
Yep. Yeah, that's such a broad statement, right? Like, hey, can you help? Okay, well, let's talk about that. Like, what type of investment property are you looking for? Like, lending for that looks different. So that's a great, on all of these, I meant for me personally, I'm going to get them talking to a lender right away. And then I'm going to always pretty much follow up with the script that goes, you know, Deanna, that is exactly why we should meet. Because I'd love to talk about that. And I'd love to be able to set aside some focus time to have a conversation with you around that. Hey, could you jump on either a quick Zoom, or could we meet in person Wednesday at 3, or would Thursday at 10 be better for you? And let's talk further on that. I'm always going to go for an appointment and work to get them talking to a lender between now and that appointment. Because if they show up to that appointment and they've talked to the lender, I definitely know I've got a motivated buyer. Now I just have to connect with the lender to see if they're able, and then I have to find out at the consult if they're willing. But automatically I've got them at least a B buyer status, which we'll talk about later. The last question, we're going to have to adjust some numbers because $1,500 a month doesn't get a ton in this market, right? So I can afford about X amount per month for my living expenses, and I'd like to live in this neighborhood that's way out of realm. So it's, you know, it's the person who qualifies for 500,000 probably, and they're telling you, they're sending you 750,000 or $1 million homes. How do we respond to that? Hey, I want to, you know, I know the lender said 500, but I want you to take me to see an $800,000 house.
I actually experienced this particular situation with my neighbor. I talked to her 2 days ago. She wants to buy a house in Lake Oswego West Lynn area, but she doesn't want the payment to be over $2,000, including everything. And how do you respond to that? I mean,
yeah, what do you guys think? How do you deal with it? This is a real thing. Buyers are going to show up and they're going to say, yeah, but I mean, this one's so pretty. I want to go see this one. I want to live in this neighborhood, and their budget does not allow it. How do we respond to that?
Can you suggest another neighborhood? Maybe that's
Suggest
nice
another
too.
neighborhood.
I was
So do some homework. Yeah, so do some homework and find maybe a neighborhood that offers some of the same lifestyle and amenities, but different price point.
You don't want to take them to a home that they're going to fall in love with that they cannot afford. So you need to be really honest with them.
Right.
Like trying to pick up somebody who's out of your league. Probably not going to happen. You need to be realistic. So
I was
hard,
sorry.
Go ahead, Jill.
Yeah, sorry. I would show the buyer a smaller house, or like a house that need a little bit of work. Maybe they can do the work themselves and just add some equity on that house. Maybe they can still afford to live in that neighborhood.
Yeah, and I like to frame it kind of around expectations, Stella, is I would say something to the effect of, well, Stella, here's the thing. Here's the 2 things that we can control in the transaction. What we can't control is how much the seller is asking for the home or how much the market says the home is worth. We can't control those things. So here's the things we can control. Is your expectations and the things you're looking for in the home that you'll love, and the amount that you'll bring down, and the financing your lender is willing to offer. Like, those are the things that we can look at different programs, but at the end of the day, we have to work within a certain budget to find the home you're going to love. So let me ask you, are you willing to bring more money down? Or are we going to adjust the expectations? And it's a hard conversation, guys. Like it's a hard, but like Hannah said, a great script is if they're pushing back, by the way, we'll talk about this later on lender pre-qualification or pre-approval. My script was always, Hannah, I would love to go show you that home before you talk to the lender. But the last thing I want to do is show you a home that you fall in love with only to tell you you can't get it. So let's do the right thing and talk to the lender.
And then Jake, so
Yep.
how do you connect the buyer with the lender? Do you set up an appointment for them? Because if you send this potential buyer to the lender, I want to make sure they will set up an appointment. Maybe it's better for me to set up that appointment for them.
Yep. So I'm going to ask if we put that question kind of in the parking lot, if you will. We're actually going to hit that later in the material.
Okay, good.
So we'll actually talk about that. So let's keep rocking and rolling. I want to make sure to get out of time. Thank you guys for answering those. You're going to hit what you'll find as you meet with buyers and sellers and clients. Eventually, you're going to start noticing the same objections again and again. You're going to hit like 6 to 8 common ones. You'll have a few random ones that pop up, but for the most part, you'll experience like 6 to 8. And then your game as a real estate expert is learn to master handling those 6 to 8 objections because they're going to be very similar as you meet with enough people. So let's just go over some terminology real quick. I think it's on page 15. What is the difference of list to sell price? What is list price? What is sell price? Who'll come off mute? Do you guys know the answer? What's list price, sales price?
The price it lists versus the price that it actually sells at.
Yep. The price it started at in the listing and the price it sold at. Now in our market, right, the sales price might be higher than the listing amount. Now, like my house that I bought when I moved here in Forest Grove, I bought it $10,000 under where it was listed. Right. So it's the difference in where it was listed, where it sold. Let's look at days on market. What does days on market mean?
I actually have a question about this because when I see days on market on our reporting, it shows like in the 40s to 60s, which I'm assuming means till close. And when I think of days on market, I think of days until an offer was accepted. So is there a difference between the two, and what do you consider that?
Yep. So for me, and so full transparency, I just moved to this market in May. So I'm still in the licensure process here. I've been licensed for 9 years. So in Colorado's MLS, the way we show up, we have 2 numbers. Not sure if your guys' shows the same. Ours there has a days on market and then what we call cumulative days on market. So depending on the listing, like let's say it's been on market with agent 1 for this long and they took it off market for so many days to try, and then they put it back on, then that days on market would show maybe 7, but the cumulative would show 30. Or if it pops off and it's pending and then it comes back on market, then those numbers can start looking weird too. So that may be something you're looking at, Amy. It could even be like when it was on market, went under contract, and then came back on market. And then that can skew those numbers and look weird. Any other feedback or comment on that for Amy?
So I have a question. So if a seller put a house on the market and if couldn't sell it, so they decided to wait another year. So the next year they tried again. So how does the days on market calculate it?
Yeah, it would reset on that new listing the next year. So do your research, just check. I mean, like Jared mentioned, he ended up with a property under contract that was off market that had been previously listed. So some of those things can kind of mess with that days on market. But typically what it's going to mean is from the time it was actively, active in MLS being marketed to the time it went pending. Again, if one's been on, went off market, come back on market, or went pending and come back on, or sometimes we'll see skewed numbers there. Average days on market, depending on your stat sources, you may see average and median. So I was a business major. I had to take stats in college. Do we understand the difference between average and median if you're looking at those 2 numbers? Average is what? All the numbers added up, right? The whole data set added up. And if there's 10 inputs, it's the sum of those divided by 10. whereas the median is the middle number. So I personally use median, but if you're looking at average days, just be able to explain that to your consumer. The average days on market will be the average days, the total numbers divided by the number of listings. So total days on market of each listing divided by the number of listings is how you see that stat. And there's a lot of sources for these. If you're getting like total market overviews, things like that from your office, those are all places to find some of these done for you. Bins is another term they use. That's just like your auto search or notification systems that are sending your buyers alerts like, hey, this house just came on market. So that's what bins is. And then IDX is the way that we exchange our information, the information data exchange. So those are fancy stats. We all use them, by the way. If you've ever set someone up on like an auto alert feature in some kind of search tool, whether it's MLS or whatever, that's a bins system. And then IDX is how we feed listings through the MLS, so to websites, things like that. Let's keep rocking and rolling here. So list to sales price, that's going to be something. Why is that important to know, by the way, when we talk with seller or buyers? Why is that important to know list the price to sales price? Why do we need to know that stuff?
So they can develop an expectation of what they might end up paying for a property.
Absolutely. I mean, isn't that important? Like, let's say I'm meeting with Hannah. Hannah's just agreed to work with me as her buyer's agent, and we're super excited. And I have not prepared her for the jungle of a market that we're in. And I take Hannah out to see houses, and I've not prepared her, and it's a $600,000 house. And I walk her through the house, and she loves it and wants to make an offer. And I suddenly go, oh, by the way, there's 10 other offers. It might make sense to go in at $650,000. How are you going to feel in that moment, Hannah? Are you going to be real thrilled with your agent?
I'm going to be really upset with you. Yeah, I'm going to be sad because I only got qualified for 625. So that means like now I've seen a home I love and can't have.
Right. So definitely what Jared said, you want to set proper expectations. And by the way, if you have those total market overviews, if you have that data in front of them, like they can argue with you, by the way, and you don't want to make your client wrong. But if you just immediately have the conversation of, hey, you're looking at X neighborhood, and here's what I know in the last 90 days of data in that neighborhood, homes have listed at this and they've sold for 103% of list price, telling me that in order to be competitive, we're probably going to have to offer more than list price. So Julie, I know that's going to feel a little weird. So I wanted to have that conversation with you up front. Is that okay? And I'm going to show them that data sheet. I'm going to show them, because I don't want to make it, well, I heard this, or somebody got a smoke and buy, blah, 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 blah. I want to show them the data and go, hey, I want to set that expectation. Now, if you find that neighborhood where you're like, hey, actually list the sales price as 99.2%. Again, if you have the data, you have the stats, you're showing up as a professional, and it just sets that tone up front. So list the sales price, very important. What you're going to notice, by the way, is a lot of this data is going to be the same as working with sellers. Do you need to know list the sales price for sellers too? Sure you do. So if you master it on one side, you'll have the skill set developed for each. Average days on market in different price ranges. Why is that important to know working for buyers, do you think?
Well, right now, homes that are over $1 million in the West Side are staying on the market for about 2 weeks longer than any houses that are under $1 million. So,
yep. Yeah. So, right. So if I'm meeting with Amy and I say, hey, I want to buy a $2 million house, and I've heard the market's crazy and my hair is on fire and I'm seeming really urgent, Amy can set an expectation, go, hey, actually at your price point, the market is a little slower. It's a little softer. We've got some time. Take a deep breath. Right. Now, what are the other advantages? Average days on market in different price ranges. What if, let's say, I'm gonna pick on Courtney. So Courtney, let's say I'm your new buyer. I'm a first-time home buyer and I am looking for a home. Somebody give me like, what would be a really like super aggressive price point in their market right now? Like I want to buy my first home ever. What's a super aggressive price point where you're at, Courtney?
Like almost like unachievable, like 350.
Okay, so awesome. So let's say I'm meeting with Courtney and we're at the buyer consult and I'm like, Courtney, I am so motivated. I'm excited. I want to spend 400 grand to buy my first home. But, and then I go, I'm on, let's say today, and I say, Courtney, this house just came up, but I am booked all the way until next Thursday. I can't go see it until next Thursday. But Courtney knows I'm in this blazing hot price point. What's probably the conversation she needs to have with me? What would you need to tell me, Courtney?
So I think I would start by just reminding them how they know that the market is really hot. And so really great properties won't last that long. And if this house is worth buying, then you're going to want to try to get in quickly. Maybe I'd offer to go preview it for them. You know, sometimes photos don't quite do it justice, and I could let them know if it was really a great opportunity to come in that day to make room in their schedule or something like that.
Yeah, because again, if we know the data, we can go, hey, Deanna, I know you're really motivated to buy a home and like you're ready to go. And here's my concern is as I look at the stats here in that neighborhood, a house at 400,000 is on the market an average of 2 days. And if we wait until next Thursday, what that tells me is it is almost 100% certain your house that you might end up falling in love with will be gone by next Thursday. So can we shuffle the schedule? Can we move some things around so we can get in this afternoon or tomorrow? If not, can I at least go by and preview? Because I don't want you to miss this house if it's one you love. Because I know there's only 4 houses on market at that price point. Right. So we can have that conversation of shuffling things around. And again, knowing the different price ranges, like Amy mentioned, hey, over $1 million, it's slower. So it helps us have a better conversation. Again, the consumer typically operates off of delayed information and they tend to generalize. Hey, the market's hot. Hey, the market's this. But the reality is that there's those sub-markets where things might be different. So love that. Let's keep rocking and rolling. Number of homes on the market in different price ranges. That's important. Again, if we know there's only literally, like I know when I've run some CMAs, I'm like, okay, you want that neighborhood? Well, there's 2 houses for sale. Which one do you want to compete on right now? Like, hey, you want that neighborhood? Hey, there's 8 houses on market presently and there's 100 people that want to buy them. Which one would you like to go compete on in the moment? Right. So knowing that is important. Pricing trends. Why is pricing trends important? Why are knowing the price trends? Are prices moving up, moving down? Why is that important? Stabilizing. Why is that important, do you think?
Knowing how strong or weak to make your offer. Possibly.
Right. If the prices are moving up and accelerating rapidly, here's the conversation I may need to have with my buyers. Hey, prices right now are on fire. They're accelerating at a rapid pace. The last comp sold at this price. To have a shot at this house, we may need to go 5% higher than the last act sold. I may need to go 10 to be competitive because the market is trending there. Now, if the market is stabilizing or heading down, I might be able to go, hey, Deanna, here's the trend of the prices in this neighborhood. I know, because I've actually had clients like, oh man, I don't want to lose this. I've heard crazy things. Man, I mean, I'm willing to do whatever, like 40,000 over, I'll bring cash, blah, blah. And I just thought, whoa, actually the market slowed down a little bit right now in that neighborhood. And I think we can go in real solid at full price, ask the seller about what other terms are important to them, ask the seller's agent. And I think we can get this home for you at full price, maybe. And then I'll call the listing agent and say, hey, we're coming in solid buyer. Feel free to call the lender. But I did want to know, we're going to come in full price. What terms are important to your seller? Right. And you might get the deal done. So knowing those trends, are they going up? Are they going down? Are they kind of stabilizing? Kind of helps you put together a better offer. Last couple of things that mentioned there in your book is school district information. If that's pertinent to them, think about what information, right? Put yourself in their shoes and their mindset. Like, hey, what might be important to them when it comes to like school district? When it comes to local resources, do they want to be walkable? Do they want to be like in a certain restaurant, restaurants, nightlife? Do they want to be near parks, near trails? Like what kind of other community amenities might they be looking for? Because what's the deal if they're like, hey, to them, you didn't do a good buyer consult. And they're like, hey, I want to be walkable, be able to walk to my favorite bars, my favorite restaurants. I want to be like everything walkable, bikeable. And you go show them houses in Forest Grove where I live. What's that consumer going to think?
You do not know how to listen.
Right. So think about those local resources, those amenities, how you might be able to connect them to that. So let's keep going. I know you guys said the agreement was that, did anyone pull a bunch of stats before they came to the class? I saw a lot of no's earlier. Do you guys all at least generally know how to use your MLS, the total market overview, or connect with people in your market center on how to find these statistics? I see some nods, yes.
Yeah, I always pull just the basic ones.
Yep. Yeah, and I know if you're here at Sunset Corridor, I can't speak for all the offices. I know, I think most of all of our offices offer that total market overview, which is an amazing tool, by the way. My offices in Colorado do not provide that. I saw that and I was like, holy smokes, this is great, because I have to put all this stuff together myself.
And I think they just sent it out this morning too. So I was looking at it this morning, but I didn't print it off.
Yes. So if you get that, use it. I know one of our top agents, Aubrey Martin, uses it often with her sellers and buyers. So definitely do that. He gives you some suggestions in the book as far as like what's the average sales price, days on market, all those kinds of things. Let's talk about qualifying. We're going to move on since we don't have the stats. Let's talk about qualifying and scheduling that consultation. So I know when you don't have the momentum you want in your business yet, and you're still talking to people, still building, it feels a little bit crazy that someone might agree to meet with me or meet with you to tell them no or to not set an appointment. But here's the reality we're going to talk about is we do want to qualify them and find out, are they actual buyers? Are they actual potential clients? Now, if it's your best friend, sure, go have coffee with them, like whatever. But like when you talk about like reporting your numbers out and those things that you guys were doing at the beginning with Mara, like if all of your appointments where you had coffee with all of your friends and you didn't mention real estate at all, like just say, I had coffee with friends. I don't know that I make that a real estate conversation. Right now, if I bring up real estate, it may have just become a real estate conversation. So let's talk about this qualifying and getting appointments part, because why do you want to qualify first? Why is that important that we actually qualify that appointment first before we meet with them?
Otherwise, you just be wasting your time. If they can't afford it, they can't buy the house, then you're spinning your reels.
Yep. I mean, so here's a question. I know that sounds hard, by the way, when you're like, well, when you say the word like, I don't want to waste time with them. But let me ask you, so let's say buyer says, hey, I want to meet tonight at 6, and you're motivated to get your business going. So you agree to meet with them, you meet with them, and you had a dinner planned with a best friend or someone you care about, your kids, whatever. And you're like, oh, I got my first buyer appointment. And then you get to the office, you're here, you're all prepared, and you find out they just filed bankruptcy, went through bankruptcy, and they're unable to buy for the next X number of months or years. And yet you skipped that important dinner with your loved ones or your friends to get there. How's that going to feel to you? You're probably going to be a little upset, right? So I love that. So avoid wasting time. And it's not that we're wasting time and we're not going to service them right. It's more, hey, it's not the appropriate time to have the conversation. It's, hey, Amy, it sounds like it might be good for us to just stay in touch. I'm going to call you in a month. Here's some resources in the meantime. I'll circle back around with you in a month and see how that's going. So it's not that I'm not going to service that person and help that person. So love that. So why else would we want to qualify them first? We don't want to waste our time or their time, by the way.
To know what they can afford and what they're able to look at and how much they're going to be putting down. So that all makes a difference in what kind of house you look at, because sometimes you can't look at an as-is house if you have an FHA loan or
Yep.
Depends.
Yep. Right. So like I said, one of my things was always, guys, if you say today's Monday, so if I'm like, I connect with Hannah's interested in buying a house, and I say, hey, Hannah, would Thursday at 4 work great? She said, sure. I said, awesome. Look forward to meeting you at 4. Between now and then, I need you to do me a favor. Can you connect with my preferred lender, XYZ mortgage? Can you connect with them? And that way, when you come Thursday, we'll know exactly what kind of price point we need to be looking at. And if we're ready to rock and roll and get going right now, or if we need to wait, can you connect with them? And most of the time they're going to go, sure. And
You're
then
gauging motivation.
yeah, because then here's the thing. If Hannah shows up to our appointment, she's talked to the lender. By the way, I'm going to follow up with the lender the next day and say, hey, did you hear from Hannah by chance? I'm probably going to do a 3-way text, introduce Hannah to the lender to see if the lender responds. I'm going to follow up. And so by the time Hannah gets there on Thursday, I'm like, hey, Hannah, I heard you talk to Chris. Chris said you were good to go, up to $650,000. That puts you at a payment about this much a month, depending on taxes and insurance. How does that sound? Because even if he says, like I had a client, he was like, hey, and I say he because our lender in Colorado is Chris, one of them. Chris approved him up to like $1 million. Well, the client wanted to spend 600. So, and that's fine, right? Like I'm totally cool with that. So, I mean, I would actually ask, hey, Hannah, how does that sound? Awesome. But if she shows up, she's talked to the lender, again, motivated and willing and able. So, but now what happens if on Wednesday when I call to say, hey, Hannah, looking forward to seeing you tomorrow at 4. Were you able to connect with Chris? No. Oh, we'll tell you what, hey, let's have you connect with Chris before tomorrow. That way we make sure we're making the most of your time. Because if Hannah shows up at 4 on Thursday, hasn't talked to the lender, I might have a conversation, but I'm still not going to go show houses. Because the last and the pushback is, well, I want to go see houses. It's Hannah, the last thing I'd want to do is show you a house you fall in love with that you can't buy. You really wouldn't like me much in that moment. So I really need you to talk to Chris. Hey, I'll call Chris right now. Are you able to jump on the call with him right now? And I literally would hand my phone across the table. I'd call Chris and go, hey, Chris, I've got Hannah sitting here at the table with me. We just need to do a quick pre-qualification and start pre-approval process. You got time for a quick phone call? Hand the phone across the table. Because I don't want to go out and show houses that someone can't buy and them get mad at me. Right. So again, pre-qualify that appointment, qualify it, find out are they really ready, willing, and able. I love that it points us out on your page 19. It says there's 2 things when a buyer calls on a property they saw online or that they're driving by and they saw a sign. They really have 2 goals. What's the first goal mentioned on page 19? Eliminate what? What was that? Eliminate the page 19. Told you.
Property or eliminate you.
There you go. Eliminate the property or eliminate you. So we're gonna hit a couple of scripts real quick that are in here. We've already mentioned that NAR stat. Actually, that's a different NAR stat there. But how many of you have had that? Like, let's say, let's pick on Courtney again. So Courtney's got a sign in a yard. She's taking a sign call, and I go, hey, Courtney, I'm calling about 123 Main Street. How much is that listed for? How should we respond to that? How would you respond to that?
You're picking on me as in I need to answer this one, right?
Yeah, sure.
So, I mean, you need to know the number, but can you always ask, let me get, I think I know the number, but let me go ahead and double check that before I tell you, or something like that, like buy some time. I don't know.
Yeah, well, and I appreciate you sharing there, Courtney, because here's the thing what is the temptation? What do we think we should do when they ask that direct question? Hey, Courtney, how much is 123 Main Street listed for? What is our natural inclination?
To tell them how much it is.
And then what's their natural response to that?
To say, oh, I can't afford it and hang up.
Oh, that's too high. Click. Thanks. Click.
Yeah.
Whatever. Click. So I love what you said, Courtney. Like here's, and by the way, I was like the internet lead caller, sign call guy when I was on our team. I worked with sellers, but I was the one setting appointments. So my response would be something to this effect. Oh, hey, Courtney, let me look that up for you. And while I'm getting that information, I just want to confirm the numbers accurate that I have here. What's got you looking to buy a home right now? They're gonna hear keyboard strokes. Oh,
Yeah.
she's gonna answer, right? There's gonna be a response. I'm gonna go, oh, okay, hey, I'm waiting for my computer to load right now. What size home are you looking for? And I'm gonna start trying to fish for some information. And then as I looked it up, I'll say, hey, I've got it pulled up here, and it looks like that home is listed for XYZ. But you know what? I see there's 3 other homes here that we've got listed that might be a good fit for you. I'd love to show those homes to you also. When would be a good time to meet? So I'm going to delay somehow, get a little bit more information, build a little bit of rapport, and then work on getting that appointment, right? Because that's their goal, is eliminate the property. What's the price? Well, that's more, that's less, blah, blah, blah. How many bedrooms does it have? Like, they're going to have some kind of really tactical just stat, and they're going to eliminate it. But like, let's say they think, hey, how many bedrooms does it have? Well, 4. Oh, click. That's too many. That's not enough. But you could, if you have a better conversation, you might be able to go, oh, that one has 4, but I also noticed there's 3 other homes listed in the neighborhood that have 5. I know you mentioned 5 bedrooms is important to you. Or, hey, I noticed you said you need a home office or whatever. So, right, just find a way to get a little bit more information. That way you can build rapport and work for the appointment. So, because they're calling again with one of those 2 goals. They either want to eliminate you because they don't want to work with salespeople, or they're eliminating the property. And if you don't script that well, like their assumption is they're going to call, say, what's the price? You're going to give it to them, click, they're done, and they're off the call. And how well did that serve you? Not very well. And the reality is how well does that serve them? Not very well, because it's likely that the price, the number, all those things are just one piece of their puzzle. And what we know is that if I can get in front of them and have a good buyer consultation with them, I will learn the things that are really important to them about their next home. So they'll actually be served best by getting together and meet with me, whether that's on Zoom or in person, to do a good buyer consultation, which we'll talk about. So let's keep rocking and rolling. There is, by the way, a buyer lead sheet, an intake sheet in your downloadable Ignite toolkit. If you did not download that yet, by the way, please download that. It has a ton of resources. And also, I will reference later, check out designs, because there is a buyer consultation guide. There's actually several options within designs and command. I think when I looked it up earlier, there were 5, depending on what kind of format and graphical look you want to go for. Just know that that's there. And then notice the last thing there is always go for the appointment. Somebody mentioned earlier, like in all those objections, your goal is get the appointment. Because again, they're trying to eliminate you, eliminate the property. Your goal is to get a connection with them, get an appointment with them so you can service them better. Right? So let's keep rocking and rolling here. So somebody read that NAR fact. This is another NAR stat. Somebody read that's on the screen or in your book.
I got it. According to the 2014 NAR profile of home buyers and sellers, 2/3 of all buyers interviewed only one agent.
So what does that tell us as agents? What do we need to do?
Be the first agent they talk to.
Be the first. By the way, over the years, that statistic has hardly changed at all. That is still very true today. Buyers and sellers typically, depending on the study, 7 out of 10 or 8 out of 10 will hire the first agent they meet with. Especially, one thing that was weird, it actually shifted a little bit to where the buyers interview more than one, which was strange. But basically, it's always, the key is be first. Be first, be first, be first, be first. Because if you're there, you're likely to get it. So let's talk about this guide. Well, before we go there, let's look on the bottom of page 20. What are some of the things when we're qualifying them, by the way, that they're at the bottom, they're saying we need to talk to them about? Their price, their motivation, location, their wants, their needs, their timeline, their finances, their availability to see stuff. That's all going to go in that buyer lead sheet, by the way. That's referenced there in your material that's in that Ignite handout. Now, here we'll talk about later too, like rating on like an ABC buyer system and how you can kind of drill down on some of those, because motivation, what they're looking for, all those things. Like here's what I know about human behavior. If I'm meeting with Vanessa, and Vanessa and I are talking about the kind of home that's desired, and it's, hey, I want a big kitchen, I want a big yard, whatever the thing is. If I go, okay, big kitchen, check. What do I not actually know when I think big? Vanessa said she wants a big kitchen. What do I actually not know?
What a big kitchen is to her.
Like if you've lived in a 200 square foot loft, every kitchen looks big pretty much. If you came from where I grew up around the South in Texas or Arkansas, guess what? Big kitchen means a whole different thing. I literally had a client that's from Texas, and he loved to cook big, massive steaks in his house. And one of his number one things was had to have a gas range, and it had to have a vent hood that actually vented outside of the house and didn't recirculate. Like, so when he said, like, I need a hood, a vent hood, I had to get, like, it was very specific. I need a vent hood that vents outside of my house and it does not recirculate. Right. So think about those things. That's why we're doing this consultation and we're talking about this rather than just making assumptions. And what is the difference, by the way, before we go into this slide, what's the difference before pre-qualification and pre-approval? What's a pre-qualification when a buyer is talking to a lender and they get pre-qualified versus pre-approval? Oh, you're muted, Stella. Oh, there you are.
For pre-approval, the buyer will need to provide copies of the tax returns and paycheck stubs, the actual documentation. And pre-qualification is more informal. It's like easy process. I think it's verbal. The lender can take the information over the phone, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Documents.
Yeah, so most of your pre-qualification is just I call the lender. Stella told me talk to XYZ Mortgage. I call XYZ Mortgage on a quick 10-minute phone call. They ask me hey, what are your general debt obligations? What's your income? Blah, blah, blah. They verified nothing, by the way, at that point. And they call me and they call Stella and go, hey, yeah, Stella, I talked to Jake. Sounds like we're good to go up to about this much. But there's really no verification done. And then
just based off of their DTI, right? Like just
well, and really they haven't pulled a credit report, so they're literally going off a verbal statement.
So is it kind of like when you get a letter in the mail from like credit cards and they're like, you're pre-qualified, but then you still have to run the application with all your info?
Yeah, and then you find out that you actually don't get a 1.9%, you actually get 3.5% because your credit doesn't qualify. Yeah, that's a great example because that's what happens, right? Like I've had a client that's like, oh yeah, pre-qualification, great, we're good to rock and roll up to this. And then they actually dove into the weeds of pre-approving them. And during that process of verification, oops, they have $1,200 a month of alimony they failed to mention. Do you think that impacted anything? They suddenly couldn't buy the house they thought they could buy. So lesson learned the hard way. By the way, if you do work with Keller Mortgage does a full pre-approval up front. One thing to note, depending on your client's familiarity with the lending process, they may feel like it's a little bit of a headache because lenders that are doing full pre-approval will ask for a lot of documents up front. They may have worked with a lender in the past that did a quick pre-qualification and the consumer may not understand the difference, why this lender wants all these documents and this one doesn't yet. The reality is both are going to ask for them eventually. This one's just doing the job up front. And as a listing agent, I can always tell you, I would much prefer to have the lender that's done the full pre-approval over the quick pre-qualification. If I've got 10 offers on the table and yours is pre-approved and the other one is pre-qualified with no verification at all, I'm definitely advising my client on that. Hey, I know this offer has been fully pre-approved. They've already went through some initial underwriting. Pretty solid. This one has just started talking to a lender. It sounds like they're good, but don't really know yet. Right. So and it talks about here, there's a script actually on page 24. Because again, you can go back to that. Hey, why is it so important that I talk to this lender, Hannah? And the response is, again, can just be, hey, I just don't want to show you a house that you end up falling in love with that you can't buy. That's the last thing I want to do, is show you a house you love and then tell you can't get it. So I want it, that's why. Now we're going to talk about, so the question was asked earlier, Stella, how do you make the handoff? So go to page 25 and it talks about 7 critical points in the mortgage process. And I'm going to give us, I know some of us, we may need a quick bio break. I'm ADHD. So once we finish this, we're going to do a quick, like 5-minute break. I know we're scheduled to 4, so my hope is we hit this. We'll do a 5-minute break and then we'll come back and finish strong. Get up and do some jumping jacks or whatever you need to do. But I want to hit this real quick because this was a question earlier. First of all, you see the big disclaimer, you are not a lender. Do not behave, act, and advise as if you are a lender unless you are actually a licensed lender. I've seen a lot of agents that start explaining things about mortgages, and I am as guilty as any because I love learning. You can give general information, but do not act and advise as if you are a licensed lender. But that handoff is critical. So there's a lot of ways to do it. There's some tactics mentioned here on page 25. My MO is, after I talk with the client, I will do a 3-way text with myself. And here's my script is, by the way, our team uses Keller Mortgage as an option. So my script is, Hannah, thanks for meeting with me today. Would love to get you, go ahead and get that loan process started for you to make sure we're on target budget wise. Do you have a preferred lender you're already working with? And I'll let them answer. And it's either yes or no, I don't care. Fantastic. Well, there's 2 other options I'd love to put in front of you. Number 1 is a program called Keller Mortgage, which will save you several $1,000s in closing costs. You'll work remotely with your loan officer. They're attached here to Keller Williams, and through that special opportunity with them, you could save several $1,000s in closing costs. Also, our other local preferred lender is Chris Hodges with Freedom Lending. I would love to get you in contact with Keller Mortgage and Chris. And you said you're working with blah or nobody. Most of the time they say nobody, honestly, has been my experience. Sometimes they have somebody. And then I'll just text Chris. I'll do a 3-way text with Chris. Hey, Chris, meet Hannah. Just met with Hannah, looking to buy a house. Let me know how I can support. And that's my handoff to Chris. It's because I want to see, and he knows to reply to that group text because I want to see that he has reached out. Same thing with Keller Mortgage. I have a loan officer there at Keller Mortgage. And then he will send a link, like he'll respond to that with, here's my link to apply. And the client can click on it. Go ahead, Jill. I see a hand up.
So for cash buyer, what do we need to see to make sure that they qualify?
Excellent question. So cash buyer, I love the mastermind pictures on Facebook where someone's like, they put a picture of a pile of money and they're like, valid proof of funds. No, it is not. What you need to see if you're working with a cash buyer for proof of funds is some sort of account statement that has not their account number. You do not want to share their account number. Like, black that out, Sharpie that thing out. Like, you do not need to share their account numbers with the world. That's a bad plan. So a valid statement from some sort of financial institution. It's got the institution's name, your client's name, and just a balance. You just need something that shows that they have an account at a valid financial institution that has the amount of money needed. So a picture of a pile of money with them holding it, who cares? That is not valid. Like, that really happens. I've actually had that sent to me once, and I said, I appreciate the picture. Now, can you go put it in your bank and send me a bank statement, please?
And how long does the money need to be in the account?
I would talk to a couple of lenders on that and just verify. Talk to some people. I mean, depending on if you're doing like high net worth people or high asset people, I mean, they've many times got a lot of money in a lot of different accounts. So sometimes, like, I've had clients that are moving money from this retirement or this investment or this asset, and they're moving money around to consolidate it in, some account to buy. But usually that's not a problem as long as they can get the money there if they're going to be cash. I've never had an issue. Like, I've had clients that just move it the day before closing and wire it over. So, but again, I would talk to the listing agent, talk to the title company, and just get on the same page. So figure out a way, though. What I would say, Stella, on that handoff question, I would talk to the loan officers or loan officer you're talking to or making the handoff to and go, hey, I've got a client I'd like you to talk with. How's the best way for me to connect you both? And if it's email, phone call, like even if it needs to be a 3-way phone call, whatever, I've just set the expectation with my lender. I want to do a quick 3-way text. And then they know to respond in that group so I can see they've picked the ball up. And they also know, by the way, if they don't call back my people, they won't be my preferred lender very long. That's a pet peeve of mine. Like if I send them a client and they take 3 days to respond, that means we won't be in business together very long. So set the expectation with them. Second thing is pre-qualification, pre-approval. Kind of explain that to your buyer, what the differences are so that they understand. Like if Julie just connects with Sarah, my preferred lender, she's never met Sarah, doesn't trust Sarah, doesn't know her. And Sarah says, hey, Julie, I need your social security number. I need your W-2s for, you know, the last, your tax returns. I need all blah, 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 blah. And Julie might be freaking out a little bit going, I don't know this person and they want all my personal information. So explain to them, hey, Julie, when you connect with Sarah, Sarah's going to ask you for a lot of documentations, last 2 years of tax returns. She's going to ask for social security number, things like that. So just be prepared for that. And that's totally normal. So I want to set the client's mind at ease by kind of preparing them for that handoff. Also, it talks about expectations, super important across the board for all clients. Learn to educate them about what to expect. When you hand them off to a lender, when they make an offer, we'll talk a lot about that. But know what, when, how the process is going to go, all that. The big one I love that they put out number 4 here is reinforcing loan requirements on the buyer. So like help them understand so that we don't run into this later, right? Once you start working with buyers, this could happen if you don't set this right. Courtney's working with this buyer. She's moving the process along. And man, we're supposed to be closing in 30 days or 45 days. And man, we are jamming. And I think everything is great. And what I don't know, because I've not been communicating well, is the lender has asked for 4 documents for my buyer and they are not giving it to them. So help set that expectation with the buyer. Hey, Courtney, I am super excited we're under contract now. Or, hey, Courtney, John may ask you for some more documents. As a matter of fact, he probably will. And here's what I need you to do, Courtney. I want to make sure we do not delay this thing. I know it's super important that you get closed on your home by December 30th. So here's what I need you to do. When John asks for a piece of paper or some kind of document, I need you to send it right away. Can you do that for me? Because your client may think when they hear the lender say, oh, I need XYZ, they think, oh, I'll get it to them in a week. Well, if you're under contract, that's probably going to delay underwriting and probably going to delay your closing. So set that expectation with them. 5 is unexpected events. So by the way, if your client, we just had this on a closing recently with my team and I was like, oh gosh, they were under contract and the seller, who was also now becoming the buyer of another property, said, oh, I just changed jobs. And we're like 2 weeks from closing. My anxiety level went up, my heart rate increased some. And I said, oh gosh, that's exciting. Tell me more about that. Oh, well, I just transferred within my company to a new position at a new location. So I called the lender and we said, well, I didn't, the agent working it, because I was freaking out coaching the agent. They called the lender and said, oh, we're good. Lender called back, said we're good. All it was an internal transfer, but I was freaking out. So anytime you get that call from your client, I got a new job. I had one where a client drove up in a brand new finance truck that probably cost at least $70,000, literally at the final walkthrough. And I am having anxiety attacks. And I said, hey, you guys go look at your house. Because he's bragging about his truck, right? And he goes in and I call the lender from the driveway while they're inside looking at the home and said, hey, problem, finance truck in the driveway right now, 70 grand. Are we good? Or did he just kill his opportunity to buy his home? Lender said, he's good. He could buy the house and the truck cash. Cool. Doesn't always work out that way though. So again, prepare your client if you're going to deposit an extraordinary amount of money, even like large cash deposits, by the way, can trigger concerns for lenders and underwriting. So like I literally would tell clients, hey, if you're going to be making any unusual deposits that are a couple $1,000s or, you know, a significant amount, a large deposit that's unexpected, talk to the lender. Do not, under any circumstance, go incur any new debt. Do not go finance furniture, buy a new car, apply for new credit. Like, don't do any of that. Don't do any unusual activities on your credit card. Like, don't do any of that without talking to your lender first. Right. So, and if something unexpected does happen, you find out, hey, they got laid off. Do not procrastinate that conversation because you're afraid to have it. Just call the lender and tell them, hey, here's the deal. Call the other lender or the other agent. Here's the deal. So have those conversations when they happen. Post-approval lockdown, even it talks about once you've got that final loan approval, that is not the green light to go buy a house full of furniture on credit. Tell them, wait, like you can have it all picked out, but do not put anything on credit unless the lender has told you you can until after we close on this house. Do not do that. Let them know. You'll be surprised at how few people realize this could cause problems. So it talks about post-approval lockdown and then loan closing. Set them up with that and all the disclosures. Make sure to go over that in advance, by the way. But make sure that they have seen those numbers in advance and that somebody has walked through that with them, whether it be you, a lender, or somebody. Because what happens if no one has done that and they get to the table and the numbers are different than what they expect? Is that going to be a happy conversation?
They think it's your fault.
It's always your fault, by the way. Awesome. Well, I'm trying to look, let's blast through to the third section, buyer consultation, then we'll power through the end. Just want to work through a couple of systems here. Let's just stay there for now. We can go there. On page 28, do you guys see where it says A, B, and C buyers? So you can actually create this as a tag system, by the way, in command. So you know how to operate with people. A, get them in the car immediately. They need to buy a house right now for some reason. So that's like these people are ready, willing, and able. A B buyer would be someone who they're willing, maybe they're able, they're probably going to be a 30 to 60 day, maybe a 90-day deal. C buyers would be that person who they're really not looking to do anything, or like if a house on this street comes up, I'll buy a house, but it's very unlikely. So they don't need as much time typically right away. Why do we prioritize people, by the way? Why would we give the A buyer different treatment than we do the C buyer? Is it because we don't like them or we're just mean? Why do we give them more priority?
Because the A buyer's ready to go. So
They
they would get priority over the C buyer. You can just put them on a campaign until they're ready.
Yeah, we can use a real life scenario, right? I mean, this is a market where we have a lot of relocation to sometimes. I know where I'm at here in Hillsboro, we got Nike and Intel and all these big corporations. And so it's like, okay, well, buyer A is living in a hotel room with their 3 children and 2 dogs, and they need a house like right now. The C buyer has lived at their home 30 years. They've thought about moving. They've thought about downsizing, but they don't really know. So, right, it's 2 very different motivation sets. Like this person is literally homeless waiting for their next home. The other person is fine. They're just exploring the possibility. So I'm going to nurture the one and I'm going to get the other one in immediately. It's got a script there for buyer referrals. The overall concept here, when you look through all of those things, by the way, is one simple thing. Qualify the buyer, the A, B, or C. Are they ready, willing, and able right now? Maybe with one thing changing. Maybe like a B would be a good example of, hey, I'm willing and I'm able, but right now I'm relocating and I won't be there for another 3 months. Fantastic. So I'm going to communicate with that level of urgency. One of the scripts I like to use is I actually used to use this in my buyer consultation. I would actually lay it out with some certain criteria and go, actually have like Hannah, if she's my client, I would have her self-select. I would actually have you go, hey, Hannah, I want to make sure that my urgency matches yours and that I'm not over communicating with you, that I have an appropriate cadence of communication. And here's what I would describe as an A buyer, B buyer, C buyer. Which one of these would you say you are right now? And I would actually let them pick. And I would tell them like, hey, an A buyer, I'm talking to you every week at least, but maybe every day. A B, I'm talking maybe once a week, once a month. a C, I might call once a quarter, because I don't want to bother you, but I do want to meet your expectations. So, and then also one note there, be safe, guys. Be safe. Don't, if it's a total stranger you've never met in your life, there are plenty lists, especially it seems like increasingly in the last couple of years, where agents have been assaulted, kidnapped, and in worst case scenarios, even killed by not being safe. So that's one of the reasons in the book it mentions, like, meet with people at the office, not in random public places, or especially at private houses alone if you've never met them, right? So let's take a quick 5-minute break. Thank you guys for bearing with me. I know on Zoom, I love in-person format. So I know that on Zoom, it can stay hard to be engaged for 3 hours. You guys have been awesome. Let's take a 5-minute break. I will be back at 2:55 and then we will wrap up. So stay with me and we'll wrap it up. I want to mute myself here.
Hey, Island Boy.
If anyone hops on back here early, happy to answer any questions. I know we may have some questions at this point. Everybody a minute or two to hop back in from break. On Anna wants to know if Trevor's TikToking.
I heard it.
Right.
That silly little dude with the freaking orange hair. The Island Boys.
Funny. We'll hit this last part pretty fast and furious. There's a lot of scripts at the end of the book. You guys can take a look at as far as resources. There's a whole lot there at the end of the packet. So we'll hit this last little burst and rock and roll through this so we can get out on time. Trevor says he's not currently, but needs to make one. know, you guys are way above my pay grade on all that social. If you got all that going on, I do good to have Facebook maintained at this point. I know some agents that kill it with TikTok, YouTube, all of that. Kim Pozak, by the way, if you ever want to check out YouTube, he's one of our Keller Williams agents in Orlando that has had a pretty good momentum now with YouTube. His last name is Pozek out of Orlando. So, well, let's get rocking and rolling. I know we got a lot to hit here in the last hour or so. Let's talk about doing the buyer consultation. We are on page 30, as it says there at the bottom of the slide. So page 30, guide to buying your home. So let's keep rocking and rolling here. Before we go there, we're just going to keep it on that slide. So when you do the buyer consultation, make 2 copies. If you're using paper, obviously if you're using digital, that's a different experience. So if you're using paper, then I would suggest making 2 copies, one for yourself to keep and take notes on that you can somehow upload. Of course, you can do that with digital paper, things like that. But then also one for them to keep. So again, why do we do a buyer consultation? Look at page 30. Somebody read that first bullet point there under buyer consultation, page 30. What are the 3 reasons it gives for why we want to do a buyer consult? Make them off mute. You guys see where I'm at?
Yeah, delve into the needs, wants, and values of your buyers.
Needs, wants, and values of buyers. And I would kind of add a caveat to that, dig a little deeper into those things, because when you ask the initial question, they're going to give you that, I want a big kitchen. And then it's, hey, Hannah, tell me more about what does big kitchen look like for you? Right. So awesome. Somebody read that second one. Why else do we want to have a good, powerful buyer consultation?
Showcase your services and educate and set expectations for how you will work together.
And to me, that one is super important, by the way, because how does the average consumer view the role of the real estate agent when it comes to buying a home? What do they basically think our job is?
Unlocking doors.
Be a door opener. So having a powerful buyer consultation will set you apart from the crowd, because there are plenty of agents that you could call and go, hey, can I see? And sure, and they pop over there, they open a door, and they never talk to that client ever again. And they actually don't have any concept of what that client wants, needs, values in a home. Like, they don't know anything, right? And they would actually serve that client better. So it sets you apart, because if you can have that appointment and show them all the things you will do for them, it sets you up in a more in a better position to show up as a professional. So then what's that final point there? Why do we want to have a powerful buyer consultation?
Walk away with a signed agreement, the buyer's representation agreement.
So every state, they always put some verbiage. Every state varies a little bit different. But basically, the whole reason is we want, at the end of the day, if it's a ready, willing, and able buyer that we want to work with, we want to get the opportunity to exclusively represent them as their agent, right? And the only way we can truly do that at a fiduciary level is to meet with them and have a really powerful buyer consultation. I literally had some good friends of mine I'd known for years. We helped them buy a home, and we used, by the way, up until like year 4 or 5 of my business, I used the buyer consultation that's in command right now in Designs. I just adjusted it for like my verbiage, my name and stuff. And I literally use that. And I had one of the Ignite students in Colorado I taught. He went out and landed a pretty high number listing, and then also landed a couple of buyers pretty quickly. And I was like, okay, how are you doing this? Because he was dual career. Honestly, I love the guy to death. I just didn't feel like he was that professional when he showed up typically. And everyone in the class was like, how are you doing this? And he literally said, I showed up and I literally read the questions. And they signed the document. They signed the representation. And I was like, wait, you literally just read it? And he's like, uh-huh. Like, I handed them one and I read, and he got it. So not saying it always works, but it's definitely a system that's been proven. So you can see the lead generation funnel. We've talked about leads a lot in Ignite. We've talked to them about the appointment. Now they're at the appointment. How do we go for that signed agreement? By the way, go into commands and command designs. Let me see. I might be able to pull this up for you guys. Sometimes I'm a technology wizard and sometimes not so much. Let's see if I can pull this over. Can you guys see my crazy inbox right now? Okay. Mine looks a little weird because I'm in leadership, but hopefully you know where command is and you see the designs icon here. So all you do is click on that. And then once you can see where I've already imported a couple here where it says your guide to home ownership. So here's the way you would do it. If you haven't imported one into your library yet, you can go to create design, print, continue. I'll just show you where this is real quick so you can grab it because that's the next several pages references design. You can get it. I think it's in your Ignite toolkit as well. I just like to show people where to grab it in command. So this is your designs library. So if you come over here to buyer, notice right here, buyer presentation. Do you guys see that? So once you're in your designs, you can go to buyer presentation. And here are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different versions visually of that same information. So if you're like, hey, I just set like you take me up on that $1 million challenge, and you're like, oh my goodness, Jake, I just set my first buyer consultation for tomorrow. What do I do? Go get this guide and familiarize yourself with it and be prepared that way. So the content is there, just grab it and adjust it. Like I said, I literally use this for like the first 5 years of my business. So I wanted to point that out to you just in case you didn't know where that was. So I'm going to close that, go back to here. Hopefully that transition works. So guide to buying your home, it's in designs, use it, familiarize yourself with it. Our goal is with this, by the way, to tell again that buyer, what's your value? What are you showing up with? Why should they work with you over the thousands literally of other agents that they could work with? Like why? Because here's my guess is, especially as a buyer's agent and a seller's agent, if you show up this well prepared, you will be part of like the top 2 to 3% of most agents. Because especially, I would say on the buyer side, especially, most people don't show up this prepared. When my friends did the buyer consultation, I have a questionnaire that we'll talk about. I gave it to them and said, hey, can you guys do this before we meet? And they actually thanked me for having them do it. It was a husband and wife couple. And they said, we have been married for like, I forget how long. And they said, doing this made us realize why we've struggled so much shopping for homes, because I didn't realize this was important to him and he didn't realize this was important to me. And like, they actually had like this like aha moment filling out this crazy little questionnaire, which was just the standard one that KW provided me. So it was interesting, and they told me, they said, no one's ever actually had us do this, but it helped them really clarify it. Go ahead, Hannah.
Okay, so I have a question. So I met these people at an open house and they were like, well, we want to downsize, but I was like, okay, so like what, do you know what you're looking for? They're like, no, we don't know. So I had to email my coach and I think he probably just didn't see it. Is there like a list like that, like you're talking about, like they don't know how many bedrooms they want? Like, cause I was like, okay, well, you're not working with anyone. Like I'd love to represent you and I can just set you up on a search because they weren't looking like right away. But they're like, well, we don't know what we're looking for. I'm like, okay, well, I don't know what you're looking for either. So what's a good way to like help them narrow down that, I guess?
Yeah, so we'll actually hit some things here in a minute to kind of address that. So we'll keep rocking and rolling because we'll actually get to that. So again, the big thing here is get that guide, look at it, familiarize yourself with it. It's already provided. And so the good thing is you don't have to start from scratch. You can start from something and just adjust, right? So just adjust that design the way you want it to be and then use it. One of the big pages I like, it talks about it, you get from me. Here's the things you get from me. Again, the idea is on that page that you're setting the tone that I'm more than a door opener. And there's a great script back on, I forget what page it is. I saw it earlier and I like that they have it. We may just end up having to hitting it naturally. But if in effect, it will say, if a buyer is handling that objection, if they don't want to meet with you, we'll get to it later. Educating your buyers. There's also a stage in here, a piece in there that describes 6 steps to buying a home, choosing your realtor, obtaining pre-approval, viewing homes and finding the one, making your offer, getting inspection, negotiating repairs, final review and contract close. So that's this, again, this guide will help you show up. So if you're a brand new agent, you're like, I don't have the first clue what to say or what I'm doing, right? This guide gives you something that you can prepare and study and read. So when you show up, you have some confidence. And if you're feeling a little bit nervous, I would say get it. Ask one of the people in your market center to role play it with you, or talk to your productivity coach and have them help you. Janet, I see a hand up.
Yeah, there's any way that you could please share the PowerPoint? That way it will be helpful to take notes, because for me, the English is my second language. It's kind of hard taking notes and listen at the same time.
Yeah,
it's just
and
a suggestion. It's fine.
yeah, let me look. I don't have it right in front of me. Are you able to, oh, I'm assuming you can all log into your MyKW account. The slides and all the content for this, videos, slides, all of it should be in your KW Connect platform. If you go look, search Ignite, it should actually have your manuals, the PowerPoint, even the videos for you.
Okay, I'll ask the person in the office.
Gotcha. Yeah,
Thank
talk to your productivity coach, and they should be able to point you to those resources.
Okay, perfect.
Sure.
Thank you for letting me know.
Yeah, no problem. So go over again some of the mortgage, the loan process. I'm just going to walk you through this because honestly, this guide is there for you to read through. I don't want to read the whole guide to you. It's a lot of what we've talked about. But again, this just gives you a good script. I mean, literally, like I said, Paul literally showed up at his first seller consultation, took the seller version of this and read it, and he got the listing. It was like a $500,000 for sale by owner. And he showed up and did not know them and just read the script and he got it. He did the same thing with a buyer. So again, you can adjust it. I do not recommend that approach, just showing up unprepared and read the thing. I recommend you get familiar with it so you can be better prepared. Ask your productivity coach, kind of role play this conversation with them. So again, we're going to keep rocking and rolling. It has some section where you talk about explaining closing to them. That is super important, by the way, guys. So it's got a page there on page 39 where it shows kind of what's on the page, preparing for it. Here's what to bring. I would highly recommend you or your transaction coordinator emailing, in writing, text something to your client. Hey, congratulations, we're clear to close. Tomorrow is closing day. Whatever you want to do to your closing, please bring. And it's got a sample, a bullet list right there. The only caveat I would add from learning things the hard way is where it talks about photo ID. So if you mention driver's license, passport, whatever, whether that photo ID bullet point on page 39, I would add the word valid. I had a client that showed up to closing with a driver's license that they didn't realize had expired 4 days previous to closing. And the closer said, I can't use this. It's not valid. It's expired. And they were like, oh my goodness, I didn't know my license had expired. Thankfully, that particular buyer happened to also be military. So her current practice was she always carried a passport as a backup option, and her passport was valid. But I always encourage clients, please verify that your driver's license, passport, whatever they're using for verification, that their photo ID is valid. So that's the only thing I would adjust from that, is make sure that they understand that that needs to be valid. So, and you can always get a list of this too, by the way, from your lender. Sometimes a lender might even have a final document they need to see at the closing table. Like if they've done a back-to-back closing of, like, they sold a house and bought a house, the lender may want the signed settlement statement from the sale brought over to the next, the closing for the buyer, because it won't be recorded or anything yet. So just verify with the lender anything they need. A title company, I always make it a best practice to just reach out to all of those involved and make sure we've got the full list. So, Janet, did you have another question, or is your hand just still up from previous? I see the hand up there.
Oh, no, sorry. I'll remove it.
No problem. Just want to make sure we're grabbing it. Just want to make sure we're getting it. So check out that list. Make sure you're explaining them. How exciting would that be if at your first closing you're set and you think you're about to get your first commission check and your client doesn't show up with all the needed things to close and they can't close on time now? How would, again, whose fault does it become? Always your fault. In their mind, it will always be your fault when things go wrong. So my goal is always be proactive and head those things off as best as possible. Now they talk about on page 40 a script to help them set the expectation. And of course, right, when they work with the lender should give them estimated closing costs in the beginning. And there's a script there to help you if you want to kind of set that expectation if you meet with them before the lender. And it recommends there that if you're bringing 20%, that typically closing costs could be about 3%. If you're bringing less than, it could be 4%. But I would just say, hey, you know, there are closing costs associated with buying a home and financing a home if they're financing. Even if they're cash, there are some closing costs. They're just way diminished. But I would just say, you know, I would talk to the lender for those, or talk to your title company and they can help you with that as well. So they can help you put that stuff together for your clients. There's a frequently asked questions. I would look at that list on that pre-designed one and designs. I would look at that list, talk to your coach, see if there's any that they recommend you want to add. I've actually added a couple over the years to mine, but our market in Colorado was very heavy, like 7 or 8 out of 10 buyers were VA buyers. So I had some very specific market things that I dealt with that, you know, you might not deal with here, depending on your client base. So I would definitely filter through that. Page 42, it shows that there's an about me page in that design. Again, you need to update that to be about you. If you don't have a lot of real estate experience yet, lean on another resume, get your coach's guidance on what you can put there, how you can fill that out. But just make sure to adjust. That's the big takeaway there. Of course, it talks about a promise. Now, one thing, if you're brand new, go to page 44 and it shows a snapshot of Keller Williams Realty. There's a page in there that talks about Keller Williams Realty. And I add in here also, personally, I would add in something about our brokerage network. Why, especially if you're brand new, would this page be important? Letting your client know that you work with the largest real estate company in the world and you have a big network of people behind you.
Sorry, what page is it on?
It should be page 44, I think, in your material. I hope it should say Keller Williams Realty. It's a sample page from that guide. Why would it be important for your client to know that, especially if you're brand new and they found it out or they know that, why would it be important that they know you're with a major company or a large company?
Because they would know that you have agents that are experienced and that you have them to back you up. Even if you're a new agent, you have all these experienced people backing you up and supporting you.
Absolutely. And by the way, the thing we didn't hit on that stats thing earlier, when a buyer throws out a question, hey, I heard this, or hey, the market says, or whatever, and we're talking about the stats, what is the answer if they ask us a question and we don't actually know the answer? How do you respond to that? If they ask you a question and you don't know the answer?
I do not know. Let me check and I'll get back to you.
I love that. And the only tweak I would add there, Stella, is let's say it's what today is, it's right now 3:13. I would say, Stella, I appreciate that question.
Yeah,
I don't know the answer to that right at this moment. Let me go do some research for you, get you an answer. And can I call you back at 6 o'clock? So, you know, or tomorrow morning or whatever. I would add that expectation of urgency around it. So do not make something up to sound smart. That is a great way to look dumb. And remember, whose fault is it if you make a mistake? Always your fault. Even if you don't make the mistake, it's still your fault as their agent. It's going to roll that way. So don't make a promise you can't keep. Don't answer a question to sound smart. If you don't know, I remember some of you may have been on the script call that I jumped in on. Like, I was point blank asked by my first listing. It was a neighbor of mine. I saw a moving truck show up. I knew it was tenant occupied, and I called him because he lived out of state and told him. And during my listing presentation with him and his wife over, I forget if we used something that wasn't, it was like FaceTime or Skype back then. With this one, it's my first listing ever. he knew me. He knew I was a new agent, and they point blank asked, Jake, have you ever sold a home? Now, if you're brand new, is that anyone's like worst nightmare that a client just point blank asked that? Right. And so here was my response. And that's why I like this Keller Williams page, because here was my response. I knew he was a sports guy, so I leaned on that. Again, build rapport, mirror match, right? Was, hey, Donnie, I appreciate that question. And I'll be really honest. I've worked with one buyer that I've closed. I've yet to work with a seller. And here's what I know, Donnie, you're a sports guy. So let me ask you, what does every rookie have that a lot of the veterans have lost? And of course, what did he say?
Drive.
Excitement.
Energy, drive, enthusiasm, excitement.
Yeah.
And I said, fantastic. So here's my commitment to you, Donnie. I work with a fantastic company called Keller Williams. My broker's been in business for 30 years. I've got a productivity coach, and I've got an entire team of people at my office. As a matter of fact, I've got over 100 agents at my office with literally decades, if not centuries of experience combined. So when you choose to work with me, you're going to get the energy and excitement and enthusiasm of a rookie, and you're going to get the knowledge of literally decades of real estate experience. So you get the best of both worlds. How's that sound?
That sounds great. I actually, do we have a script for this speech?
No, because that was literally one I made up on the fly in the moment with him.
Great. I would like to write it down.
Yeah. So, but that's why I love this page here, because if they know you're new and you're kind of feeling that, you can totally lean on that and go, you know what, Courtney, I appreciate that. And one of the most exciting things about choosing to work with me is I have one of the most amazing companies in the world. It's actually been rated the #1 training company for so many years. We're no longer included in the study. So at Keller Williams, I work with a fantastic company that's training me on how to be the best possible agent for you. And by the way, I'm working with a productivity coach that's got however many number of years of experience. And I have a whole team of people back in my office that if I don't know the answer, I can get it for you. And like Gary Keller's thought of script, by the way, about being a professional is, hey, Hannah, here's my commitment to you is I'm going to always be a professional. And here's what that means to me is a professional knows what they know and they know what they don't know. So if you ask me a question that I don't know, I'm going to be a professional. And I'm going to tell you, Hannah, I don't know right now, but I'm going to go do some homework. I'm going to ask some people and I'm going to find the answer to that question for you. Can I call you back today at 5 and give you the answer? And every client, that's all they know, that no one knows everything. Like even the veteran agent, I'm 8-9 years in, I have still hit things that I'm like, wow, that's new. Never dealt with that before. So that's a great script no matter what point of your real estate career. But that's why I like that page, and that's why it's included. Some people are like, why is that Keller Williams Realty page in there? It's so that you can lean on the strength of the company, even if you feel like you're brand new. So that's why I love that being in there. It goes on to page 45. It talks about closing for agreement, right? So we go through this process. We've generated the lead. We've held the appointment. We've done the consult. We're going in for the closing. Now we've got a bunch of scripts on page 45. So it says ask for business #1. So let's go to page 45. Hopefully you've got, do you guys all know how to access your buyer representation agreements? You guys all know how to, if not, talk to your coach, talk to your brokers, and ask them till you know how to do that. Somebody look at that first script on page 45 and read that. Now we might need to modify one part due to the COVID climate that we live in, but what is that first? It starts off with all I ask, the script there. What is the script? Somebody read that. Page 45 under close for the agreement.
All I ask in exchange for my superior customer service promise is that you agree to work with me exclusively. Does that sound fair?
And then obviously in COVID climate, you might eliminate the, okay, can we sign and shake on that?
Mhm.
Depending on the climate or the client, some may shake, some may fist bump, some may air bump, like whatever. You can just eliminate that bottom line altogether and leave it at the first question, right? And now when you ask that, there's a couple of other options here that are laid out. I always like to have options in scripts depending on your personality and more importantly, the client's personality. So there's a couple of options there. Now, it talks about objections to signing the exclusive agreement and or meeting. I want to handle some of those. I don't know if we might have even passed one of these that I think is important. What is the objection? I want to just handle a couple of these. Asking for the appointment. Buyer calls in on 123 Main Street and says, hey, I want information, blah, 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 blah. And you know that the best way to serve them is to meet with them and do a good buyer consultation rather than just pop in and open a door for them. What's a great objection handler for that? Hey, Hannah, I don't want to meet. I appreciate the information, appreciate your time, but I'm not interested in meeting. What are some ways we can handle that objection? Because that's going to happen. They're going to come in through a Facebook ad, come in through a sign call, you know, pop in an open house. How do we handle that objection? I don't want to meet. I just need this information. What are some ways we can handle it? Oh, and by the way, the pressure will be, Hannah, I've talked to 10 other agents, and I mean, they've always just popped in and opened the door for me. Why do we need to meet? I don't understand. Because let's be real, that happens a lot, right? Like they can call 123 Redfin or whatever right now and get a showing. So why should I meet with you?
You're not going to get the best service from anybody if you're doing that. So if you want the best service, you have to be willing to give a little to get a lot. Really.
Yep. I like that. And here's how I would maybe handle it. Here's a great script I like. And by the way, any script I have other than the rookie one, usually are ripped off and duplicated from other trainings at Keller Williams. So you can usually find them in some script book, Bold or Ignite or somewhere. So let's say that Deanna is the person that gives me that objection. Hey, Jake, I appreciate that, but I don't need to meet. I just need you to come open the house for me. Like I've got 10 other agents that would do that. I would usually say something like this. Hey, Deanna, I certainly respect that. And you're right. There are a lot of agents that would just show up and open that door for you. And let me ask, would it be a better investment of your time to do that 100 times in this market and have 100 different agents open 100 different doors only to not get the house you love? How much time would that take? How expensive would that get? Or let me ask you, if I can commit to you that by spending 30 minutes together on Zoom or in my office doing a quick consultation, I can show you the best 5 homes for you on market right now. And maybe by this weekend, we could be under contract for a home that you love. Would you rather go see 100 homes or see 5 homes? Because I'll do all the hard work for you. I'll filter all the stuff out, but I need to know what you're looking for first. So, hey, there are a lot of other agents that will show you as many houses as you want, but I'd rather respect your time and your money and get you seeing the homes you love right away. And so I would go that route. I would point them to like, hey, there's plenty of agents that will open that door for you, but here I operate differently. And I want to save you time and I want to save you money, because who's going to object to saving time and saving money? Like, right. Now, some of the buyers' objection to exclusivity. Let's read this. So not all buyers on page 46 will say yes. Some will object. So if a buyer objects to signing, here's a couple of script options. Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, because of the level of service I provide, page 46. I can only work with buyers who work exclusively with me. Let me remind you that by signing, you are not agreeing to pay me a fee. Now, caveat there. Again, learning all the documents here. If you somehow through the contract and the representation agreement have obligated that buyer to pay you a retainer fee or something, you can't say that. So what the script's point is basically you're not going to get paid anything until we close. So by signing that representation agreement, if they never close, you're not earning a dollar, right? So think through that script. Be careful. In Colorado, there was a way actually to obligate the buyer to pay your commission at closing. So you've got to make sure if you're delivering that script, you're delivering it truthfully, is the only caveat I would give. Talk to your brokers on that if you have questions around that script and whether or not you can use it. There's another one here. When you engage me as your real estate representative, you give me the tool that I need to represent you. That one I like a lot because if you've not signed that representation agreement and I begin to act as if I'm your fiduciary agent, I'm actually incurring some liability without your authorization. like if I'm not your signed fiduciary, your exclusive fiduciary agent, and I start disclosing anything, or like that could actually incur some liability for me. So I like that second script personally. A lot of times I would just say, like kind of going back to the ABC buyer thing, I would say, like, let's say I'm meeting with Miriam and Miriam pushes back and says, hey, I don't want to sign this. No other agents asked me to sign this. And I can say, hey, I certainly respect that, Miriam. And at the same time, I've got 6 other buyers right now that have exclusively agreed to work with me, and they need a home right away. And my highest commitment contractually is I have to find those 6 buyers a home right now, like as soon as possible. So I respect that you're unwilling to sign this document, and I need you to understand that that means I have to prioritize these other buyers first, because I'm contractually obligated to find them a home right away. And I'm happy to help you as well. But in order for me to prioritize yours as much as theirs, I have to have this agreement signed, because I'm under contract with these buyers to find them a home right now. So kind of help them understand the urgency of that. And most people get that, like, hey, at the end of the day, if your boss asks you to show up for work tomorrow, but didn't promise to pay you, would you show up? Right? Like, we get it. So most people will get that. A lot of ways to do it. Know before you go. If you weren't able to agree on a win-win. Now, so page 47 mentions a hard scenario. So what happens, and this will happen if it hasn't already, what happens if you meet with a buyer, you are so stoked and excited to work with them, but they are absolutely unwilling to sign that buyer representation agreement? Has anyone had that happen? What do you do? What do you guys think? What do you do?
You can say there's no reason to worry. You can cancel this agreement with me anytime if you're not satisfied with my services.
Yep, I always love to put that explanation in the thing. Hey, Stella, I certainly respect your little hesitance to sign this, and do know that if at any time this relationship isn't working, you're welcome to fire me, or there might even be a chance where I choose to part ways with you, and that's okay. Like, right? So what else? How else can we handle that if they're unwilling to sign? Janet, go ahead.
Yeah, I really appreciate your input, Stella, because I was wondering what we'll do when this scenario comes in with a client basis, because I was thinking about what to respond in this case, and I really appreciate the being in this class and your input, Stella.
When you see a script there, it does give a script. Now, I will say this one's a hard script to deliver. If you look at the bottom of page 47, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, I appreciate your decision. Since I can only work with buyers who exclusively work with me, I'll just have to wish you luck in your home search. Thanks again for coming in to meet with me today, and let me know if you change your mind. Like, that's a hard script. Now, here's the reality. That's a pretty hard line. How many of you would be comfortable delivering that if the person is your friend or family member? That's probably going to be a hard one to swallow, right? So you're going to have to make a determination for your business, work with your coach on how to script around it. My guess is if it's a friend or family member that's close, you'll probably have a harder time cutting that off. Here's the reality, and here's the important point to take from all this is, don't spend all of your time that you could spend with your family, that you could spend lead generation, that you could do other things with people dragging you around showing houses when they have no ability to buy a home. And by the way, no interest in working exclusive with you. I can share, like, how disheartening and frustrating would it be if Jill has been out weekend after weekend after weekend showing houses to someone that's not signed that agreement, and then lo and behold, the next weekend she finds out they went and bought a house with Hannah after Jill's put in a month worth of showings.
I wouldn't do that to you. I would not. Just
Yeah,
so you know.
yeah, but it happens. Like, oh well, it's suddenly, oh, a friend of mine is a realtor, so I just called them and they took me out. Wait, what? And we never got that representation agreement signed, so there's no sign crossing. Right.
Right.
But you put a month of work in, so you're still frustrated because you assumed they would choose to work with you because you've been really diligent. But then what you didn't know is a friend of theirs falling on hard times as a real estate agent, and they needed a deal, so they worked with a friend. So that's again where you're going to have to decide. There are times, by the way, I will say something that may not make sense right at the moment, but it will resonate with you over time. The best thing you can do to serve you and your clients at the highest level is build a really big, stable business. And here's what and people are usually like, well, what does that mean? How does that help my client? Because at the end of the day, you'll get to make the choices to let's say you have a client that really needs your focus and priority, and you have another one who just wants to drag you around seeing homes. Well, if you have a really big, stable business, you're going to be able to pretty easily say, hey, let's stay in touch, but right now I need to focus on this person. But if you're in desperation mode, you might get distracted by this person over here that really is not able or willing to buy right now. And it makes it a lot easier to make that decision to walk away from a transaction that's not a win-win, or a relationship that's not a win-win, which is one of our core values, if you've got a big, stable business. So just practice that script. If you have one of those situations, show up at script practice. I mean, you guys should know we do script practice several times in the morning. Show up at that, throw that out. Hey, I'm getting this objection. Ask your productivity coach, ask people in your market center, hey, I'm dealing with this objection. How would you handle it? Because you're going to have, especially I would say in our climate, and here's what I'll say: a lot of buyers buyers agents are uncomfortable asking for that agreement. At every company, including Keller Williams, agents are uncomfortable to ask for it. And I will say, for our business in Colorado, we ask for it every time before ever showing houses, and we've never had a pushback. Now, if we do, it's fine. Like that buyer can choose. Like we'll stay in touch. Again, we're going to serve. Like we'll stay in relationship. But that just means that until I get this thing signed, I can't prioritize this relationship over the contractually obligated relationship, right? Like I actually have a contracted relationship here that makes me legally prioritize them. So I have to represent them. Whereas this relationship, I don't have that obligation yet. So most people get it. Let's keep rocking and rolling. Needs analysis. It kind of talks about on page 49, if you go through there, what are the big sections, the big recommendations? Listen and take notes. So when you're going through that buyer consultation, ask them questions and take notes. Now, I would recommend saying, hey, Courtney, when we start, I'm going to ask you a lot of questions and I'm going to take some notes. And what I want you to know is I'm not doodling. I'm not distracted. I want to respect what you're saying and capture that input. So I'm going to be taking some notes as we go. Is that okay? So I'm going to preface that. Be specific. Ask those questions. What about the big kitchen is important to you? Like you would be surprised at how Tony DeSello used to call it going 3 deep by using that script. Ask what else or what about that's important to you. Like you'll be surprised that when you ask that, hey, I want a big kitchen. Fantastic. Tell me what's important about a big kitchen to you. Well, I want to be able to cook and I want this kind of range and blah, blah, blah. Hey, that's fantastic. And why is that significant to you? Like I've literally, by doing that, when I do it well, have got to like people tearing up about a kitchen and they're like, well, because kitchens to me, I grew up in a home where I didn't have whatever. And one of my biggest things, I love hosting big meals with all my friends and my family, and I want them to all be able to gather and cook amazing dishes for them. And you're like, whoa, we got to that from like big kitchen. But then, right, when you're shopping, you as an agent are able to go, hey, Julie, I know you said a big kitchen is really important to you because you love to host amazing meals with you and your friends and your family members and your loved ones. And man, can't you just see your dining room table over here and all of those friends gathered around the big island here, like, and sharing that amazing food that you make? Can't you see that? Or can you see that, right? Like you can have that conversation and take them back to their motivation. Or it's, hey, Hannah, you told me you need to be moved by the end of December because you start your new career here that, the first week of January, and you wanted to be settled before then. So, hey, if we don't get under contract soon, we're not going to be able to get you in your home by the last week of December. And that was really important to you, wasn't it? And take them back to their motivation. right? Take them back to that buyer consult. So ask what else, be specific, go 3 deep, ask outside the ideal, because like they may go, hey, I want a ranch home. I may want 3 bedrooms. We'll get clarification, especially right now, right? They may say, hey, I need 3 bedrooms, and what they actually need is 2 bedrooms plus an office. But in their mind, they see the 3rd bedroom as the office. So the reality is you might be able to set up a search and go, hey, this 2 bedroom actually already has the office. Would that work for you? Or do you really need 3 bedrooms? Or, hey, I want a guest room. Awesome. Is that guest room multi-purpose, or is it dedicated to your guests? Like there's a whole lot of ways where you want to ask outside, because they're going to tell you, hey, I need X. And I would encourage you just dig a little deeper and ask, hey, help me understand that better, because you're going to find some things where you might be able to tap into a different type of inventory or unlock something that they weren't looking for. They didn't know they were looking for it. Never assume. If you ever don't ever make the assumption about it, right? Ask the question, hey, Julie, one of the things I like to say is, hey, Julie, what I hear you saying is this, is that accurate? Hey, Julie, it sounds like this is important to you. Am I hearing that correctly? Or if they're visual and they're like using, hey, take a look or see, I'll say, hey, Julie, I see that really matters to you. What about that's important? And dig, hey, can you clarify that for me? Ask about household, not family. That we all have certain vernacular we use in our normal vocabulary, by the way. The caution here is you do not want to violate fair housing laws. So just be conscientious of that language. So ask about households. You know, I mean, like I even, as I meet with recruits, part of my role as a team leader is meeting with agents looking to start a career or transition a career to KW. If I hear like an us or something, a lot of times I'll just say, hey, Jill, tell us who's us? And just let them know, oh, I've got kids or a significant other or whatever. They walk through that situation. So just be aware of that verbiage and that language. Make it a dialogue. Again, try to build rapport. Key things that we talk about in scripting, right? Mirror and matching. If they're leaning forward, maybe you lean forward. It's actually kind of fun, by the way. If you master this, it's super fun. Go in a group of people and start either mimicking them for a minute, and then actually shift to where you start doing different postures, different body, and watch and see how many people in the group suddenly start following your body language. It actually works. Like especially if you've done it and mirrored them, it's like subconscious, it'll start to click. And then like I've literally in recruiting appointments, I've done that. And then I'll shift my legs to be crossed a certain way, or my arms folded a certain way, or a certain posture. And suddenly they'll start mimicking me. Like I've been mimicking them, and then they'll suddenly start mimicking me. It's very interesting how those mirrors and that mirror and matching stuff work. And in their language, right? Like if they're speaking very quickly, and then if you start speaking really slowly and they talk fast, you're going to drive them crazy. But if they're talking really slow and you start talking really fast, you're going to drive them crazy. You know, start listening for those things, build rapport throughout that. That is really one of the biggest powerful parts of a consultation and why we do it. Like we learned that we get to know that person, not just like the things they need on real estate, but we get to know them a little better. Like, are they more cautious? Are they more calculated? Are they risk takers? Are they going to be the type that's like, love it, let's write the offer right now? Are they going to be the type that says like, hey, I need a whole spreadsheet, please? Like, right, that's part of that consultation. Let's go. We got another video we're going to watch real quick, so you get to quit hearing from me and hearing from this buyer needs analysis video. Let's see if it works. Hopefully audio still goes.
Needs analysis.
Still got audio?
A systematic process of collecting information about needs, wants, and desires that is used to establish and define goals. Step 2 of the buyer consultation is the needs analysis. Only when you understand what is ultimately important to your customers can you deliver it. Many agents ask their clients, "What do you want in a house?" and stop there. They don't realize the answer to that question isn't the same as "What do you need?" or "What's important to you?" Determining your customer's core wants, needs, and values is a process. Draw a line down the middle of a piece of paper and write needs on the left and wants on the right, and use it to track their needs and wants as you go through this process. At this point, you will have a clear understanding of what buyers need versus what they want, but you are not done. Now, you want to drill down and uncover their values by finding out why they need and want what they do. Use this question: what about blank is important to you? Let's see how it works. Say your buyer has told you that they want or need a large yard. You say,
so what's about a large yard that's important to you?
your buyer says, I like to garden. You ask,
You like gardening, and what's important about gardening?
your buyer says, I like to spend time outdoors. It helps me relax. You ask,
Makes you feel relaxed, and what's important about being relaxed?
your buyer says, when I'm relaxed, I can spend more quality time with my wife. Bullseye. A large yard equals family. At this point, you have uncovered a value. You can now look for other ways it applies to your buyer.
A large yard is important because it allows you to spend quality time with your wife, correct? So what else about your new home would be important to you in terms of spending more time with your wife?
Okay, what ahas from that video? By the way, that's Tony DeCello. I actually don't know. Tony may have passed away at this point. But that was one of his favorite things, is going 3 deep, he would call it. What were the ahas?
That he asked 3 questions out of 1 and kept going.
It's incredibly hard, by the way. Try it, like if you have like a significant other in your world or a kid or something, try it on them. Like it's really hard to go 3 deep. It's really easy to go 1. It's somewhat hard to go 2. It's like super hard to go 3. So it is a learned skill. So keep asking. Love that. One more aha and let's rock and roll and wrap it up. What else?
Same thing. Like, whoa, I don't know if I can do that. I mean, I know I can, but wow. It probably would have helped if it wasn't such a dry dude saying it too, but.
Yeah, well, and Tony's honestly, he's the one that's kind of well known for that 3 deep concept. And, you know, like the big takeaway there is, right, drive from that, I need a big kitchen, to why is that important? Now I connect to a value. Oh, this is important, really. So now I can begin to look as an agent and go, oh, this is important to them. Well, that might show up here and here. Like, oh, I want to spend more quality time with my family, or, you know, my significant other, or whatever their situation is. Oh, fantastic. So now I know a big yard means more time with my loved ones. Oh, a shorter commute means more time with my loved ones. Oh, I'm by the restaurants I love to frequent with my loved ones. Like, that common value might show up in a lot of places, right? So that's part of the power there. So love that. Let's keep rocking and rolling. I do want to take, so let's take, flip over to, by the way, that script I was referencing earlier on page 51. It says, hey, I want to take 10 to 15 minutes exploring some questions with you. It may seem like a lot, but I'd rather ask you 500 questions and show you the right 5 homes and ask you 5 questions than waste your time showing you the wrong 500 homes. I love that script. Does that work for you? You know, and you could also spin it in like, hey, I want to save you time and money, however you want to do that. And it kind of walks through, where are you moving, how soon, why is moving to that part of town important to you, why will that, what will that do for you is what that should say. But let's look back on page 52. So page 52, 5 must-haves. I actually love this list. I believe it's still in our buyer consult. I don't do them personally right now. But I had put it in there originally because I like it. Let's say I'm meeting with Carly, and one of the part of that consultation, as I do the needs analysis, I would say, well, Carly, what are the top 5 things your home must have? And then I would listen, and I would start writing down everything that Carly says, again, because that tells Carly that I value it and I'm listening. And then I might say, as soon as she finishes, I might even add in here, okay, Carly, so what I heard is this, and this are important to you. Is that accurate? These are must-haves. And yes, fantastic. Well, let me ask, beyond those 5 things, what's something else you really must have? Because there's always something else. There's always something else. Oh, I forgot. Let's add this. Fantastic. So these 5 things plus this. And then let me ask you, if you could make your dream list and you could add just one more thing, what would that be? Fantastic. And then let me ask you one more. We're dreaming here. What's that one other thing? Now, here's what we're doing, by the way, as we build that list. Here's what you and I probably know. We've just gotten 8 things on their must-have list. We're in a really competitive seller's market. What's the chance we find a house that checks all 8 boxes? Probably basically 0. But here's what we've gotten. We've gotten a list so that as we see homes with them, we can begin to see, oh, you know, Courtney, I know this, you said these 8 or 9 things were super important and like must-haves for you. I know this house only checks 3 of that must-have box, but man, it's got one of those dream list items. I mean, look at this view. Isn't that crazy? I mean, just stand here and imagine yourself sipping your cup of coffee in the morning, reading your favorite book, looking at that. I know it doesn't have this and this, but is this view worth it? Or, hey, it doesn't have that other bedroom yet, but you know, it does have that other room that probably could be converted, or we could add one in maybe. I'd be happy to talk to a contractor, connect you to a contractor that you can talk to about that. Like, so we kind of make that list and walk through it. And then one of the things as well, there's a script in here where it also talks about setting the expectation of, you know what, Carly, I would love to tell you that at the end of the day, you're going to buy a house that on a scale of 1 to 10 is a 10. And here's what I know. I've helped people buy and sell a lot of homes. There are no 10s. I've shopped with people up to millions of dollars. And by the way, this is valid. I've shopped with people spending millions of dollars on homes. And you don't have to say this part, but I've shopped with people, shown houses, however you want to word it, where you can be in integrity, right? There are no 10s. There's always something that has to be done. There's always, I've shown some 7s, I've shown some 8s, and every once in a while I've shown a 9, but I've never shown a 10. So here's what I want you to understand, Carly, is when we find a house that's an 8, I'm going to ask you to write an offer, because I would hate for you to miss a house that you could love when we may not see another 8. So I like to set that expectation. That script is in your book, by the way, in the script packet, of like, I would hate for you, and again, setting expectations, right? I prepped Carly. Hey, Carly, we're probably not going to see a 10. We very likely won't see a 9. 8 may be the best we get, unfortunately. But you know what? The cool thing is, it's going to have a whole lot of this list you just named off to me. And so what I'm going to ask you to do and encourage you to do is, if we see an 8, consider writing an offer, because I don't want you to miss a house that you'll love. And I've literally, like, we've actually used that, like when we used to print off the paperwork. You can always use digital, but we would actually ask at the end of our showings, I would actually, let's say I'm out with Courtney showing houses, we go, Courtney, we talked about that 1 to 10 scale. So Courtney, where would you rate this house? And if Courtney says, 7, okay, well, let's keep this one on the table, and let's go see the other homes, and we'll revisit this one later today. Now, if Courtney says a 5, then I'll just say, so Courtney, you and I can agree this home needs to go off the radar, right? We need to just drop this one. We don't need to think about this one anymore. Are you okay with that? And either Courtney will say yes, or it might be that Courtney actually says, well, wait, whoa. I do like this, and this. So is it a 5 or is it a 6 or a 7? So you can actually use that kind of concept to help them filter. And then at the end of the day, if you've shown them 10 houses, you can say, okay, well, this one, and this one were 7s and 8s. None of these work, and we get rid of those, and let's focus on these 2 or 3. Of these 2 or 3, which one would you put the highest? And it helps them mentally filter through. I mean, if you have some kind of physical reminder, it's great, but it helps them filter through, right? So, and then talks about what's ahead. There on page 54, it kind of starts talking about, the process, what that's going to look like. Once you get done with the consultation, obviously you want to start prepping them for that, what it's going to look like to start that consult, or the process of searching, what it's going to start to look like around. So now we've progressed from, we've had the appointment, we've got the signed rep agreement, we've set the expectations of, hey, this is what's next. We're going to start looking at houses. You're going to get your search set up. You're going to see properties start popping up in your inbox automatically. When you see those, here's how you need to request showings. You start setting all those expectations. And then from there, you want to prep them as part of that, obviously, on what it's going to look like. What would be the key steps, by the way, when you think of home buying? What would be the key steps? They're going to meet with you as a realtor. You're going to connect them with a lender. The lender is going to pre-approve them. You're going to then set them up on that search system and start searching. You're going to make the offer. You're going to negotiate. You're going to go through inspection, appraisal, then the closing. That's basically it, right? There's like 8 pieces. So let's go back to, I want to go to page 57. Actually, let's stop and go back to page 56. Page 56, where it says putting it all together. Here's the action plan to take away as we wrap up. 1 is practice your buyer needs analysis with your team or partner. So find somebody to script this with. Practice it, practice it, practice it. It may feel weird. When I first came across this concept as an agent, I asked my wife if she would be my role-playing partner, and I walked her through the whole script, and I practiced with her. I was like, here, I just need you to act like you want to buy a house. And I walked through it with my wife, Haley. So practice that needs analysis because you'll get better. By the way, no script feels supernatural when you first deliver it. It's never going to feel like you, sound like you, or feel natural the first time you deliver any script. But once you practice it, you'll kind of make it your own and you'll get to figure out it'll feel a little bit better. Yeah, see your question there, Miriam. We'll hit that one here right at the end. So appreciate you sharing that. Practice all your scripts with your team. Again, script practice, cannot overemphasize that. Practice that buyer consult or objections with your team or partner. Again, work through the scripts. There should be a script book at the back of this session. Get together in scripts or in your market center and practice those. Page 57. So hopefully you are at least aware that there is a mission before each session. If not, talk to your productivity coach. But I would highly recommend before you go to the Ignite session, you do the mission first. It will help you get more value from the session. Because some of it will have like prepare your call list ahead of time. One example is this part of this mission is putting a call list together of other business owners you could call during your next Ignite session to make some business to business calls to set appointments to meet with those business owners. So I would highly, 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 highly encourage you to do those missions because you'll get a lot more from the sessions. So take a look at that and you'll be doing the mission for session 8, obviously. On page 58 is that list where you can write down your call list for session 8. So if you look on page 58, there's a list there. Again, the encouragement would be to fill in every one of those blanks with a business owner you can call. By the way, easiest calls on the planet. Easiest calls on the planet. It's hey, Deanna, this is Jake Norman with Keller Williams. How are you? I wanted to introduce myself. I'm a local real estate agent. I see that you own a salon. Fantastic. Are you accepting new clients? Who's going to say no to that? Of course I am. Awesome. Well, hey, I'd love to stop by your business, get to know you and who your ideal client is. Could I come by tomorrow? I'm going to ask to drop off business cards and then I'm going to ask in person, hey, do you have a local real estate professional that you refer your clients to? Yes or no? Awesome. Hey, would you mind if I referred you to my clients as they're moving in the neighborhood and looking for a new stylist? They're never going to say no. So of course you can. Those are easy calls. So make that call list. That's part of it. Let's see. Question here. We're going to wrap it up. How would you address a buyer who is not ready to commit because either they don't like any home you show them or want to keep looking in case they like something more? So how would you guys respond to that? So I see kind of 2 questions here. How would you address a buyer who is not ready to commit because because they don't like any home you're showing them? Let's start there. How would you guys address that?
To be honest with what they can expect. They're not going to, you already said it, they're not going to find that 10. So they need to like narrow down what they can actually expect to find right now.
Yep. Yeah, and you could definitely revisit, by the way, that hey, give me your 5 must-haves, add one, and go, hey, well, what I'm seeing here is this checks off 7 out of your 8 boxes or 6 out of your 8 boxes. This is actually the best house we found. So what's the likelihood when better comes up? Like that. So get really clear on expectations, reset them, let them know, hey, there's never a 10. By the way, I built a custom home. Like some people are like, oh, I could go build a custom. Sure, if you got a lot of money right now, you could go build a custom. I built one myself in Colorado. And even after I was done, guess what? There were still problems. Brand new house, built custom for me. There's always a problem. There's never a 10. There is never a 10. So that would be one, is set better. I mean, I would say re-clarify the expectation, right? Like, hey, Miriam, I appreciate that these aren't the houses you're expecting. So here's what we can do is either A, we can adjust what you're looking for, or B, we can adjust the budget. So do you want to talk to the lender to see if you can borrow more money, or can you bring more down? If the answer is no and no, then hey, the only option we have left is to adjust expectations, which means we either need to change the features the house has, or we need to change the location. Which one of those are you willing to compromise on? Which one are you willing to adjust? Right. Or the second part of that was, or they want to keep looking in case they like something more. So the buyer that gets essentially analysis paralysis. They're always looking like, oh, maybe there's a better deal or one that comes up better. How would you guys recommend working with that? So here's, go ahead, Stella.
Yeah, can you repeat again? I missed it.
Yeah, how would you address the buyer who wants to keep looking? They're afraid to make an offer and go under contract because they're afraid something better might come up.
Well, we can say the market is getting hotter and hotter. The interest rates are expected to rise, and it's never a good time. There is no reason to wait, basically, because again, as you said, you will never find this perfect house. It's very rare to find.
And here's another way. I like that. Definitely point to rising interest rate possibilities. Hey, we never see a 10. And another way you could even handle it is if you've done the buyer consultation, or you can still re-inject and revisit this, is theoretically part of that consultation is knowing their ideal timeline. So again, this could be the ready, willing, and able. Like if I know they need to be in the home, it's November 1st. Let's say I have a client that needs to be in a home by December 2nd, and they want to keep looking because there might be something better. I would say, hey, Miriam, I know it's a little overwhelming to pick one when there's so many houses that feel like they're out there. But here's what I remember when we met. You said you needed to be closed and in your home by December 2nd. And here's what I know is it's going to take about 30 days to get to closing. And if we don't move pretty soon on this, you're not going to be in your home by December 2nd. And you did say that was really important to you because of X, Y, and Z, didn't you? Well, yeah. Did that change? And find out, like, did the motivation change? Or is that still true? Because then we can go, okay, well, if that's true, then we've got to move on a house now so I can help you get in your home by December 2nd, like you said was important. Just another way. So I like the, hey, moving interest rates, we don't know. And we're never promised that a better house is coming on, right? Like we know inventory is limited. So we're, hey, Miriam, I would hate to see you pass on a house you love when another one may not come on that you like better. Courtney says, last question here, probably, how to win a buyer who needs more time? A, for waiting for the market to cool off. B, get more organized and ready. So let's go with A, waiting for the market to cool off. Are there any stats that would indicate the market's about to fall off a cliff? Is my question, I guess, to the group. Like Chris Suarez has shared, like, hey, it may feel like a shift or a slowdown because it's going to go from like maybe 16 or 18% appreciation year over year to like 6% or 8%, which will feel like a slowdown. But the reality is, like, outside of something tremendously stupid happening in the next 12 months, it's highly unlikely home values go down. And even if it goes up 2% at the average home price, right, that's another 10 grand. So it's highly unlikely. Another thing, I mean, you could talk to lenders, even have your lender talk to them about, anticipated interest rate changes, and point out to them, by the way, I meant, like, go have your lender, like, you could talk to them or have them even talk to them. Hey, Courtney, I know that you want to wait. My lender just told me today they're anticipating a rate hike of 0.25%. I know that doesn't sound like much, but did you know? And like, talk to your lender or have your lender talk to them and say, translate a 0.25% rate hike. like, oh, that's going to lead to X amount more per month, because that's how most people think is per month. Right. So help translate that. And you can also get with your lender to translate like, hey, I know 10,000 in negotiation, like, hey, I know $10,000 sounds like a lot, Courtney, but at the end of the day, depending on your rate, your lender, blah, 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 right now, that's going to translate to about $40 a month. I believe if I remember my math right, be about $40 a month. Verify with your lender, not a lender, but translate with them like, oh, that $10,000 jump is $40 a month. Are you willing to pass on a house you love for $40 a month? So learn to do some of those. Get ready, get organized. That may just be, I mean, that may be a valid thing. That would be a condition. I would ask, how can I help? What do you feel like you need to get ready, get organized? Awesome. Thank you guys. It's right at 4. I think Mara you will get followed up with some kind of evaluation. Feel free to share. I always love feedback. Do look through your packet. There are all of the scripts we went through are in the back of that. Again, I would highly encourage you to do your mission. Check out KW Connect. There's some additional videos they mentioned. So I would definitely recommend going to check those out. KW Connect, by the way, fantastic resource for all things scripts, videos. There's a ton of content there, including all the Ignite content for both this version and the lab version. So feel free to reach out to me anytime. I'm at Sunset Corridor. You can ask Mara how to get a hold of me or talk to your productivity coach. Happy to help. Enjoy your Monday.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.